The time has come for the final round of the championship in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, live here from Portimão, the Algarve International Circuit. Again, glorious conditions to greet us on Sunday morning, which is an unusual time in the weekend to be going racing as far as the Le Mans Cup is concerned. Normally, Saturday evening is the period of time reserved for the 2-hour races, but to ensure that everybody involved in this championship, if relevant for them, can be at the awards ceremony this evening, being held actually for the first time at the track rather than a local venue nearby, and hosted by a young Scotsman that we will hear a little bit more about in a moment or two from my co-host. The cars are heading out onto the track, but yes, Sunday morning, we've already had one race here as part of the support package. We kicked off at 8:30. We're just after 9 o'clock now and set for a 2-hour race. This is the 6th venue that we have visited after Barcelona started things off back in April. Then a trip to the south of France to Le Castellet, Circuit Paul Ricard, to Monza in Italy. The Road to Le Mans provided 2 just short of hour-long races on Thursday and Saturday of Le Mans week itself. Spa-Francorchamps last month, and here now in Portugal to end proceedings. Fuel going in, of course, this is a fuel race though as well, and all of the cars, whether you be in LMP3 or GT3, will have to stop somewhere between 50 and 110 minutes. Sorry, yes, I'd rather 70 minutes, 50 and 70 minutes in order to take that fuel on board and do a driver change as well. My name's Johnny Palmer, delighted that you can join us. And as mentioned, or alluded to at least, Graham Goodwin is my co-host, the editor of dailysportscar.com. So tonight's host for the awards ceremony is none other than
vertically challenged Scottish motorsport legend Alan McNish.
Yes,
I heard him actually practicing as we were leaving yesterday evening after the awards ceremony, and well done it was too by the Ligier European Series, and Alan was practicing his lines. He has to do that,
of course, yes,
very slowly.
Well, that's understandable.
But no, it looks like it's going to be quite an evening, and despite all the travails of the season, we look at this fantastic roller coaster Portimão circuit, 4.6 kilometres, and just an absolute favourite, both with the fans, and they're back here, that's great to hear, and with the teams and the drivers too. That still doesn't look real.
No, the Turn 5, which was the scene of a number of various stories yesterday in different categories, in fact. Turn 5 is a great place to spectate from, either from the grandstand on the inside of the circuit, or indeed you can get access to the rotunda, which is right next to Turn 5. There is an observation level to that. Open, I understand, this weekend to spectators, and of course this is the second meeting of the year that has been where the gates have been opened once again after such a long wait. Fans welcomed back at Spa-Francorchamps in numbers, and the same is the case here in the Algarve.
Rumble of the V8s as outcome this fantastic grid, 26 LMP3 cars in this grid, and trouble immediately for the number 6 car, unfortunately. That car has ground to a halt turn 3, so it's barely got going.
Jonathan Brossard, didn't he not have an incident towards the end of qualifying yesterday? And the number 6 car brought out, well, there was a red flag in...
Right at the end.
That was Le Mans Cup session, wasn't it? It was always this point in the
Yes,
on the
it was,
Sunday.
because that was for the Horst Feldbermeyer issue where
Yes.
he accidentally set off the fire extinguisher.
Yes, and the other thing, of course, is this 15-minute session. We'd had just over 10 minutes of it, and Horst Feldbermeyer, as you say, with an issue in his car, but Brossard, I think then the restarted bit, which only lasted 4 minutes and 18 seconds, his car, the ANS Team JSE management car, could go no further, the Ligier, and unfortunately it looks like those same problems quite possibly have manifested themselves again today.
Another one. No, it's not.
Wow.
This is the WTM powered by Phoenix car.
Now, is this because these cars are just not used to being ready to race on a Sunday morning? Because it's normally a Saturday evening affair when they've had qualifying and the race on the same day. There's obviously being serious, from a mechanical point of view, quite a lot of prep that you need to do in order to get the car up to temperature and ready it for a 2-hour race.
That was a power recycle. I think both those cars are back and running, or are they?
So an electrical issue quite possibly for both. The 11 car is the more substantial story if that doesn't get going, because it qualified in 2nd place yesterday.
Indeed.
Torsten Kratz at the wheel and on the outlap. And to answer your question, well, I still can't see
No, I think there's no yellow flags. Now a yellow flag at turn 5.
Which we didn't have at all before.
So is that one of our 2 cars? That's the 6 car getting its way back underway.
Ish.
Jonathan
Brossard is off the road and now back onto it again.
So my guess is the 6 might be making its way back down pit lane, because I think that car stopped twice. The 11 car just the once.
Yeah, but it's almost as if the 6 is on a limp home mode, with Brossard just about managing to recycle the electrics in that machine. So those that are still running, and we should have 27 cars that are absolutely fine, and therefore the 2 added to that provide a 29 car field for the final round of the season. The number 2 Porsche, which just missed out on pole position yesterday, Nicky Leutwiler, could yet be the drivers' champion in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, even though the team's title for GT3 has already been decided the way of the number 8 Iron Lynx car.
Did spot the number 11 was heading back for pit lane there, so one of the 2 cars that was in trouble, in fact a number of the cars. Pit lane is still open, of course, at this point. To have the opportunity to come in and out to form up this grid. It's another, 14 minutes before we go racing?
Yes, due for a 25 minutes past 9 start.
13 minutes.
Okay, it'll be 2 hours worth of racing, and as mentioned, the cars, well, LMP3s will have to actually stop twice. Once for a fuel and a driver change, of fuel stop and driver change together, tending not to do tyres from memory, but I suppose the option is there to do that as well. The second stop is only fuel, and you can only do fuel within that. I mean, there's very small things that you might be able to do, like clean the windscreen as well, but you can't do a driver change, and you can't change the tyres on that car, and that must be done the second stop within the final 20 minutes.
To close pit exit. Under 30 seconds to close pit exit.
So they've got to go.
In other words, yes.
So are we going to get anybody stuck
20
here?
seconds to close pit exit.
Well, these are the cool racing cars. 69 is in pit lane. I think the other one is the 37.
That car's not going.
10,
37
9,
is going to
8,
miss the pit
7,
window unless
6,
it gets sent now.
5,
It's too late.
No,
3,
they've missed the pit window
2,
here, and car 37 was due to start
Pit
from
exit
pole
is closed,
position,
and it
remember,
will stay closed
Antoine
until the end of the
Ducat.
first racing lap.
So pit lane is now officially closed, and Antoine Ducat, let's hope he doesn't go through a red light here.
Now there might be a delay. There might be a delay, but that didn't look to me.
Well, there's not going to be a delay in the pictures. There might be a delay in the message.
But the
Car 37 reported to the stewards for exiting the pit lane
it's
with
blown
a
a red light,
on.
and Antoine Ducat has
37
ruined the
reported
chance
to
here
the
of getting a
stewards
good
for
result,
exiting
because
the pit line
he should have waited
with
there
the
till
red
the
light
end
on.
of the first
My
lap.
recommendation is that the car comes into the pits and starts the race from the pit at the end of the first racing lap.
so they're a lap down straight away at the end of the first racing lap.
Yeah, fine.
They start a lap down.
But almost a little loophole being created there by Eduardo Freitas. He's giving them the benefit of the doubt to say, I'm not going to give you a penalty. As long as you come into the pit lane and stop at the red light, you will only be 1 lap down. It could be 2 or worse. So, I mean, at least you've got a race director sort of on your side. He couldn't have done a lot more there by counting down to the exact moment where the pit lane is closed. And even though there'll be a lap down in a 2-hour race, if you get a safety car, there may still be the opportunity to gather that back again. I've seen that happen before.
That looked to me like a straight mistake from the team.
It was.
They just simply missed the fact the clock was ticking down, and then I suspect a little bit of panic.
Now, obviously we're making a big deal of this because it's the pole-sitting car. However, this car, Cool Racing 37, cannot win the championship today. There are 5 teams involved that can, and it was more crucial for the 69 car to get out, which was also in the pit lane till fairly late on, but 69 did clear the red light, or clear the light at the end of the pit lane before it turned red. So car 69, that will be starting quite a bit further down the order in 16th with Maurice Smith at the wheel. They are 3rd in the championship on 59 points.
So the number 6 car is still on pit lane. Saw that car coming into the pit.
They've got genuine problems.
They
though,
do.
haven't they?
The other one to keep an eye on, as we've got some smoke halfway down the pit, the grid there, is one of the championship contenders. I think it's 2nd place in the points, isn't it? The number 11 car, which was in trouble on that outlap. That car is on the grid. In fact, will now be de facto pole position car. That's trouble for one of the Virage cars.
beginning with a 7 by the looks of things, so 71 maybe? Is that
Yeah, it will be. It's Rob Hode's car.
Okay. Due to start from 12th position, and Rob Hode's machine is in strife as well. Why on earth do we have so many mechanical problems with these cars when normally they are bulletproof?
Absolutely.
The 11 car got to the grid, I believe, so Torsten Kratz, despite his drama on the outlap and reconnaissance lap, if you might express it as, he has got to the front row. Antoine Ducat has followed Eduardo Freitas' advice by coming into the pit lane and is now sitting at the red light. So I will assume there'll be no further penalty, apart from the fact that the car cannot tack onto the back on the first lap.
Nope.
That will have to be done after the first racing lap is completed. Therefore, it will join a lap behind everybody else.
Yeah, it's going to be an anxious wait, isn't it, for young Mr. Ducat? Now, what is going to happen here? I think they're going to take that car behind the wall. That car is coming off the grid. So there might well be a short delay here, depending on how quickly the Team Virage technical team can actually get this car clear. But that car is not going to be starting from the grid.
And again, there's the option, I suppose, of starting from the pit lane, but the problem now is that Anton Ducat is parked at the end of the pit lane and can't start the race till a lap in.
He'll be in a similar position. Once you in the pit lane at the start of the race, you'll be starting a lap down.
Is that the case for everybody,
I
though?
believe so.
Okay, have to dig out the regulations to be sure about that. But I mean, unfortunately, the decision's going to be made for him because he won't be allowed to overtake Ducat.
Well, if you're joining us this morning for the first time for a Michelin Le Mans Cup race, and because of course there's a difference in timing, there's every possibility that's the case. What have you got to look forward to? It's a mix of GT3 cars and principally here the LMP3 cars. Well over 20 cars, including a couple of here in a bit of strife. A handful of GT3s for this final race of the season around Algarve International Circuit, and basically the format is it's like a very large bar brawl where you stop halfway through, shake hands, hand over to a mate, and he gets stuck in for you.
Yeah, tag team wrestling,
tag team wrestling and bar brawling between LMP3 and GT3 cars, and the GT3s, by the way, will be in amongst the LMP3s for much of this race. That's always been the case in this form of racing. Confirmed, by the way, now with timing firing up that it is indeed the Cool Racing 37, as we've seen, Johnny, at pit exit, and the 6 ANS Team JSE Management's Jonathan Brassard's car, which should be 26th on the grid, will start from pit lane if indeed that car starts. And we can see there in the background Team Virage getting to work on the 71 car. That car should have started 12th.
Yep.
So no short of incident even before we got to the grid. Further incident on the grid, and gaps on the grid must be respected. 3-minute board is now out.
So Torsten Kratz's right side door, the driver's door, is closed around his head, if you like, and Torsten Kratz will have those sort of niggling thoughts in his mind about whether that issue that affected his car on the installation lap is going to creep back in again. I think once they get up to race pace, all of that can be forgotten about, but when they're trundling around at a slower speed, these little electrical issues do tend to creep in out of nowhere.
Yeah, bad news, good news, hasn't it been this morning for the number 11 car? It is a title contender. Stopped on the outlap, the grid formation lap, and then suddenly finds that having expected to start second in the order here, the pole position car will be somewhat delayed. So he's de facto pole position at this point.
Yes, and needs to be mindful of that when he dictates the pace coming out of turn 15, because the safety car will peel off into pit lane, and then it'll all be down to the speed that Torsten Kratz decides to go at, which is a responsibility he won't have expected to have had. So this is the 7th round of the championship. We started with 3 2-hour races, one in Barcelona, one at Paul Ricard, and one at Monza. Then the 2 shorter races, 55 minutes in duration, with still a driver change in the middle of those races, but no
1 minute
fuel.
board on the grid. 1 minute board on the grid. Engines may now be started. Please clear the grid immediately. Please, everyone, clear the grid immediately.
So they took place on the 19th and the 21st of August during the week of 24 hours
the 3
of Le
gaps
Mans.
on the grid must be respected. The 3 gaps on the grid must be respected.
So the three gaps of the absent cars of 37 from pole, should have been in pole, Cool Racing's Antoine Duquin, the Jonathan Brossard ANS team Ligier, and now the absent Team Virage 71 Rob Hode's car. They're all in the pit lane, either waiting to join the race or being serviced in the case of Team Virage with the yellow and orange stripes. The sister car at Virage, though, the better placed of the two, starting from 4th position with Miguel Cristobao back in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Last time he competed in this championship was this time last year, because he's a Lisbon man and always likes to race at Portimão where possible. So it'll be Torsten Kratz then to lead them away. And this is a fine time for us to run through the grid, which was decided yesterday across 2 separate sessions of 15 minutes. The trouble session of the 2 was LMP3, which had to be red flagged after just over 10 minutes. And then we got going again with a short, sharp second period of just 4 minutes and 18 seconds. GT3 was settled with a relatively quiet session because there are only 3 GT3 entrants for this final round of the season. Brossard's number 6 car is moving and heading towards the end of pit road, and both of those cars will be permitted to join the competition, but only after a full lap has been completed by those cars that are on the grid. This is frustrating, mightily frustrating for Antoine Duquin, because the 37 car will also have to take an 80-second time penalty when we get to the pit stop. So Cool Racing and Antoine Duquin not there in pole position despite the graphic. It'll be WTM powered by Phoenix, Torsten Kratz on his own on the front row.
So who to watch in this race? Torsten Kratz is certainly one of them. Keep an eye out for Tony Wells starting in 8th position, now 7th there.
CR Cruz on the inside of the second row for Mulner Motorsport. Then Miguel Cristobao in the Virage car that's not the one in the pit lane. Rinaldi Racing's Alexander Matchell alongside a second Mulner Motorsport car for John Fowle, which is an interesting tie-up for the American with the German team. Phoenix Racing's Ian Loggy, but John Loggy on the graphic alongside Tony Wells for Nielsen Racing. RLRM Sports Horst Feldmeier, after the fire extinguisher went off in the car during qualifying yesterday, starts alongside Pietro Peccinini for TS Corsa. CD Sport of Spain, Michael Jensen starts 11th alongside Rob Hodes, who's not there. He'll start from the pit lane, hopefully. Jack Wolf for Racing Spirit of Le Mans and Phoenix Racing, Frank Kraling. Then it is the DKR engineering car of Francois Kerman alongside Mo Smith for Cool Racing, 3rd in the championship, and all United Autosports 9th row with Daniel Schneider starting alongside John Schaumann. Then it's Alden Goodmanson in Team Thor's final race in the Michelin Le Mans Cup for the time being. Grain Market Racing's Mark Crader starts alongside Jerry Kraut, also for United, Patrice Lafargue for EDEX Sport. And alongside Patrice, it will be Crichton Lendudis for AF Corsa. Then the first of the GT3 cars is Gabriele Lancieri for Iron Lynx in number 8 GT3 Ferrari. That car has already won the championship. Jonathan Brossard is in the pit lane, car 6. 2 more GT3s. Nicky Leutwiler, who could yet win the driver's title for PZ Obira Zurichsee. Second Iron Lynx Ferrari for Manuel Agostner. And finally, Andrew Ferguson for Nielsen Racing starts the 27 car from 29th position. We're all set for the final round of the season, Graham.
Here we go. It's going to be great. It's been great all season. Let's see whether or not this pack can dole out the usual brand of entertainment.
On to starters' orders then, as the cars come out of turn 15 and need to be a little bit more bunched up than they are in the midfield. GT3s, remember, don't get split out separately from everybody else, so they are in the throng of LMP3s. The red lights that are on the gantry are now extinguished, and we're racing for the final time in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It is a good getaway initially from Torsten Kratz in that Duquesne then that leads them away, but the second of the Duquesnes from Mulner Motorsport trying to have a nibble on the inside, and Miguel Cristobao around the outside in the Team Virage car, the yellow and orange machine, almost up to 3rd. Yes, could be 2nd actually as they exit turn 3. It's going to be 3rd for Cristobao, although here comes the Rinaldi racing car around the outside, which is the green and yellow machine of Alexander Matchell that started from 2nd on the road and is almost back up to 2nd, fighting hard with CR Cruz in the first of the blue and white cars.
Makes it up there, and there's a spin there from one of the two. It's the 21 car, that's CR Cruz, goes around. So it's the Rinaldi car up into second place. Yellow flags for that recovering Mulner car. neat and tidy aside from that spin.
Yeah.
There didn't seem to me to be any contact there, Johnny. I think that was just a little bit of enthusiasm into that tricky turn.
It is tough, and particularly on the exit, if you give it slightly too many beans coming out of that tight left-hander at turn 5 on cold tyres and cold brakes, and then it can easily pitch you into a spin. I'm not sure whether it was under braking that he lost it, but more likely under acceleration, leaving the 5th bend. And there are 2 cars still waiting to take part in this race. They will have to wait for everybody to stream by for the first time at the end of the first lap, and then the light will turn green at the end of pit road, and finally Antoine Duquin and Jonathan Brossard will be able to head into round 7 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Streaming across the line at the end of the first lap, Torsten Kratz leads then for Wochenspiegel, Team Monschau, powered by Phoenix, ahead of Alexander Matchel for Rinaldi Racing. Then it is John Falb in the first of the Mühlner cars, Miguel Cristobal in 4th position, and Ian Loggy for Phoenix Racing has made progress. Car 5, he's up to 5th.
There's a move there from the Cure Racing car up the inside of the CD Sports 33. That move completed successfully. Get those 2 cars released any moment now as the final car comes across the line. It's Gabriele Lancieri.
Out of 4 and down towards turn 5. Now Antoine Duquin and Jonathan Brossard can finally join proceedings. A very early puncture for the number 8 Ferrari, and that has to be to do with some debris on the field, on the track, you would think, or maybe just a faulty tyre to start with, because a front left going around here so early on has to have been caused by something else.
Has to be. So that will have slightly delayed their entry to the race as the race control sorted out the correct point to release those 2 cars. No sign yet, the 71 car joining in. Well, the 71 car is not shown in pit lane anymore, so that car, I think, may be also with us.
Yeah, the concerning thing for me about that is it was never shown in pit lane, because
good point.
It hasn't gone through the timing loop.
Completely correct, Johnny, you're right.
Yeah, so I fear that Rob Hodes will still be sitting there with a hope maybe for Virage to get that car into the race, but they're about to go 2 laps down if they are still stranded there. 2 Duquesnes still absolutely nose to tail. The TS Corsa car, which is in that almost British racing green with the yellow detailing, is running in 11th place with Pietro Peccinini at the wheel, and it's DKR Engineering's Francois Kerman tucked in behind. Fellow Duquesne from Torsten Kratz leads 2 further DO8s of Alexander Matchel and John Falb, with the first of the Ligiers, Miguel Cristobal, also for Team Virage, car number 16, running in 4th spot.
Good stuff so far. Plenty of mixing, limited contact. Keeping an eye out where that Nielsen car is. Tony Wells up in the 6th position, championship leader coming into this race. We're looking to keep it as neat and tidy as possible. He's there just there and behind in the shots. So we've got John Falb, previously LMS LMP3 champion, of course. But I think his first run in Duquesne. I'll share that car, by the way, with James Allen. LMP2 drivers both for the European Le Mans Series later today.
Hearing from Haley Edmonds, who will be getting more from the pit lane in due course, that the 16 car had a gearbox problem at the start of the race potentially. So at the moment it's doing okay because it's up to 3rd place now. Cristobal in front of John Falb. But by the sounds of things, there have been issues for both Team Virage cars before we got underway. Now some contact between the 16 and the 21.
Well, was the contact at turn 5 then? That was the incident that turned him around.
CR Cruz. Yeah.
Didn't see the contact. We saw the aftermath.
Didn't see all of the incident, to be honest. Just caught that as it had already begun. So CR Cruz was already facing the wrong way. Was there a push from Miguel Cristobal perhaps on the run out of turn 5? The start of the race, of course, absent from pole position was Antoine Duquin, so hopefully CR Cruz was in the correct spot. He certainly didn't take the lead across the line, and then of course when they got to turn 5 he would be pitched into a spin potentially. So on the inside, Cristobal, there was contact certainly, and the nose of Cristobal's Ligier making contact with the rear of CR Cruz's Duquesne, and the spin came afterwards. There was also a big lock-up in the early stages for Patrice Lafargue in the 17 EDEX Sport car, and an overtake for the 25.
That's the Racing Team Le Mans car. Followed immediately, by the way, by the Cool Racing car. So just offline, and that allowed both cars by. Early pit stopper, by the way, as we're watching these replays, and this is the number 8 car in very early trouble. That might well have settled the Drivers' Championship in GT3.
In favour of this man, Nicky Leutwiler, in the number 2 PZ Oberer Zürichsee by TFT car. Yes, quite possibly.
It's a literal long way to go, but that's a big blow for the number 8 car. That team has already secured the Teams Championship. By the way, early stop for Team Thor and Auden Gudmundsson. He's been in on pit lane for a minute. He's now running again. Still work going on this Team Virage car.
To give you the points from a driver's perspective, Nicky Leutwiler leads on 89 points. His main teammate for the year, Julian Anlauer, is further back because he missed a round, 74 points. Paolo Roberti, who drives the number 8 Ferrari, is the other person that could potentially win on 71 points. Dorian Power with a very outside chance indeed, running in the number 9 car with Manuela Gosner. So 4 laps completed for Torsten Kratz. The lead is 3.4 seconds over Alexander Matschel. Miguel Cristobal running 3rd, but the incident that involved him and CR Cruz is being investigated, and there was further contact in another incident for cars 8 and 20 at turn 3. That was in the initial stages of the race as well. Great.
Up to 4th very early on in this race. On your timing and scoring screens, if you're watching live timing, is John Logie. That is Ian Logie. Known better by that name to motorsport fans. Long-time GT racer, particularly the British GT Championship. That was something of an overtake off the beaten track, if you ask me.
And Mo Smith it was, I think, the 69.
It's the 27 car of Nielsen Racing. This is the Ferguson brothers. That if you're regular watchers of the Ligier European Series, you'll recognise them from their 24/7 JSP4 Ligier. One brother lives in the UK, one in Spain.
Still undecided between the TS Corsa and the DKR engineering cars. They have been following one another, or the DKR car's been following the TS Corsa from the start of the race pretty much, with Pietro Peccinini in 12th, Francois Kerman just behind, and Maurice Smith for Cool Racing, car 69, up as high as 9th place now. Say up as high as 9th. He had qualified a bit better than that. Again, out wide is not the 69 this time. It's the 27 car. 25 car, I think, actually, is Racing Spirit of Le Mans.
Apologies.
Yeah, so 25 to the outside, and it is 8th place that Mo Smith desperately wants to have, and Mo Smith tried up the inside there at turn 1. Almost had the track position and then thought better of it, because there was probably going to be contact into turn 1, and Mo Smith stays 9th as a consequence.
Mo looking to be on the move. Backed out of that, I think it was the wise move to back out of it, but caused a problem for himself in doing so with the lap down Iron Links number 8 all over the rear end. Fastest lap of the race, by the way. Perhaps predictably to Antoine Ducan, trying in 27th place. 1:39.201.
Yeah, there was never any doubt that Anton was going to be quick, and his teammate Josh Skelton is certainly no slouch either, arguably a little bit more rapid than his bronze teammate, but unfortunately there's a drama here for, now which car is that going slowly between turn 5 and turn 4 and 5 rather? Was that Antoine Ducan actually just allowing 1 or 2 cars by?
Or was that the 27?
Because he's a lap down. 37 to the outside, Cool Racing favouring that route out of turn 15, and well off the track in order to complete an overtake. Josh Skelton is watching on from the Cool Racing garage.
Yeah, the puncture for the number 8 car, there is an investigation underway for contact involving the number 8 car and the 20, that's the Grey Market Racing Duquesne on lap 1. It's a 30-second stop and go penalty for car 16 for contact with 21. That is Cristobal, the 3rd place car. I think we could have predicted that one. Here we go, we're going to see it again, and that was CR Cruz going for the... It's an odd line from...
It was, yeah.
CR Cruz there.
It was a change of direction, certainly, and Miguel Cristobal, I'm sure, would say, well, I expected CR to stay further out wide. However, if you are going to try and get on the inside of a car, you need to be fully alongside it. And Christopher certainly wasn't. It's normally, in an incident like that, judged to be the fault of the person behind.
Absolutely right.
I think that's correct.
I'd be interested to see that incident from a straight-on angle,
Different
putting into that turn, because it did seem a very, very odd line from the Milner car.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it was the ideal braking point. It's always tricky on the first lap, judging where to start to slow down for turn 5 with tyre temperatures nowhere close to what they will be now. But CR Cruz's race, who he was running second at the time, rather ruined by that opening lap contact.
Battle here between Tony Wells fending off the RLR M Sport car, number 15 car, usually campaigned by Mikey Benham in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, but it's great to see Horst Felbermayr, previously known more regularly as Horst Felbermayr Jr., of course, lost his father, also great racer earlier this year, and Horst very popular with this team. He's quick and an absolute gentleman. Had troubles in qualifying yesterday, but nothing short in terms of his commitment, and Tony Wells, championship leader, as Christopher takes that penalty. And this pair will move up to 5th and 6th place. So this is heading in the right direction for this championship fight for the Nielsen Racing crew.
Christopher's going to rejoin outside the top 10, well outside of it. And I wonder whether actually, of course, the 30-second penalty means that rather than heading all the way through, I was thinking it was a drive-through penalty, but it's a 30-second stop and go, and that has to be done with the team rather than in a separate penalty box, so that they are entirely responsible for the correct amount of time being served. So 16 Team Virage back on the move. The 71 Team Virage car is still in the pit lane and still being worked on. We're getting to the point now where the team surely will be thinking, that's probably as far as we can go now, and time to concentrate elsewhere on the ELMS later today.
Well, the one thing to add is any track time is good track time, and Rob Holmes has also got a driver course in the ELMS, so you might well be keen to get out there and dust off the Saturday night cobwebs.
That's a very good point. So they wouldn't get a result, but nevertheless, you've got the track open to you for the next hour and 45 minutes, so why not make use of it? Battle the 17th position between the United 22 car, which is being driven by Jerry Kraut, and behind him Patrice Lafargue in the 17. Patrice going for it. Nice little move there between turns 10 and 11, Graham.
Yeah, I think he sensed a little bit of hesitation there from Jerry Kraut. They didn't need a second invitation, did he? So I wonder if Jerry Kraut just got himself a little bit tied up there. Great stuff still underway here with the number 3 from DKR and the number 73 from TS Corsa. Replay here of the starts. A nibble there, wasn't there, for a potential challenge for the lead, but thought better of it. CR Cruz. It was later in the lap that the real dramas happened to him. And as he recovered back up into the top 10, so he's recovering pretty quickly up the field, back into 9th position. So a nibble up there, no way through there. He realised the momentum and the line was all going the way of the number 11 car.
So the lots of contact were looked at as Francois Kerman goes up the inside of Pietro Peccinini at turn 5. So DKR Engineering finally getting ahead into 11th spot to shuffle the TS Corsa car down a position. But the contact between car 8 and 20 at turn 3 I was trying to look out for as well, which is the Mark Crader car and number 8 Lancieri, presumably causing that puncture, but didn't catch sight of that as the cars were going through from the aerial shot through turns 1, 2 and 3.
In terms of where that 37 car is in the race, there's trouble for the number 6 car. That's a spin and looking to recover from Jonathan Brossard. And was that all by himself?
Yes.
Looks pretty lonely out there, doesn't it? Yeah, it was.
Turn 3 it was, and turning it in at the usual point, but no grip at all on the rear end, so rotating once again, unfortunately, for Jonathan Brossard.
So our provisional pole sitter that was caught up with that incident where they fumbled pit exits and had to start a lap down, it was what we saw on track there was Antoine Ducin passing the 19th place car, so unlapping himself from the 19th place car. So he's got a way to go, and that car, by the way, is 50 seconds down on the leader. So it's effectively done, but it's going to be something to watch. The pace is still there in that car. Could be a factor in terms of difficult traffic under that heading.
Yep. Out of the Tora Vip corner at turn 5, continues the scrap between Mo Smith for Cool Racing and the racing spirit of Le Mans car of Jacques Wolf. So 69 up against 25. Remember, 69 was circulating behind Jacques Wolf for a period of time, but they have since switched positions. And Maurice Smith just starting to set off a little bit now in pursuit of Horst Felbermayr, who's running in 6th place for RLR M Sport. Nicolas Lapierre of Cool Racing peering at the screens in a slightly concerned manner, because it was a great day yesterday in qualifying, both in the ELMS and in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, with Charles Milesi taking his 2nd pole position of the season in ELMS after he did similar at Spa-Francorchamps last month. And then you had the Antoine Ducan doing the business in qualifying yesterday in LMP3 for Le Mans Cup, but unfortunately it's gone rather wrong after a decision by the team, nothing to do with Antoine, releasing the car far too late and after the pit lane was closed for the reconnaissance lap. And since then the 37 car has very much been playing catch-up, still down in 27th, Graham.
As we're watching this battle still underway between Tony Wells and Horst Felbermayr, leader Torsten Kratz is away and clear, 8 seconds clear now of Alexander Matchel. In Loggy a further 3.7 back from there. Those gaps significant. The battling's all happening in the midfield here.
Yeah, so the RLR M Sport car being driven by Horst Felbermayr is now starting to pressurise Tony Wells for 5th position. And Alexander Matchel to Ian Loggy is only 3.5 seconds. John Faub closer than that too to getting involved. And now that Francois Kerman has wriggled free from Pietro Peccinini in his TS Corsa car, he's starting to hustle CD Sports' Michael Jensen, the Dane, really under pressure for the position that he currently holds, which is 10th place.
Indeed. So this is for the final position in the top 10. So at the moment, Francois Kerman looking pretty good for this. Half a second gap, and working that with aggression, looking to see whether or not he can find the pace or force the error. Thumbs up there.
Well, Kerman is a former Le Mans Cup champion, let's not
is.
forget. That was 2 years ago. Took 2 wins, 5 podiums along the way to the championship in that year. So, yeah, should be good. Shared the car with Laurence Rohr on that occasion. And better than 11th place where he currently is, so I would expect him to work his way into the top 10 through the course of this particular stint, as Horst Felbermayr, having recovered from that bizarre incident yesterday when the fire extinguisher for an unexplained reason started to go off in the cockpit.
No, I can tell you exactly what happened there. I spoke to Horst afterwards and we had a quick chat through it. There are, with every race car there are quirks. And in the case of the LMP3 cars, you press both pedals together, and the car is going to stall. You then need to do a power recycle, and he pressed the wrong button.
So he set the fire extinguisher off. Right. Okay.
And I should say
that's the sort of thing I would do, to be honest, when you're trying
absolutely
so quickly to get back up and running.
And as a mark of actually just what a gentleman he is, bumped into him as he just exited the truck, having taken his overalls off. I said hello. He said, "Just could you hold on for a moment?" He went, shook hands with, thanked and apologised to every crew member that was clearing out that car.
Wow. Okay.
That's a lovely
that's
guy.
That's a mark of the man, isn't it?
And by the way, just lest we forget, he's at the moment harassing the championship leading car.
Yeah.
And this is his first LMP3 race.
Championship leader as in Tony Wells, and he shares the car with Colin Noble up ahead. So this is the Nielsen Racing car number 7. Side by side but not for position is Alexander Matchel for Rinaldi Racing, lapping Brossard?
Yes, it is.
Jonathan Brossard, who's recovering after that spin and of course having to start the race from the pit lane. So he was already a lap down and is now going 2 laps down, sadly. Torsten Kratz must already be through. The 20 car of Mark Crader has looped it as well at turn 13 at the top of the hill. So Grain Market Racing in strife. Was that contact though with Antoine Ducan?
Oh,
yes, it was. Antoine Ducan was trying to force the issue a little bit there, and let's face it, they're not likely to recover that full lap back again.
No.
So that's just a bit too much heavy-handedness for me, for Antoine Ducat, and unsurprisingly, it's going to, well, no further action concerning the other incident for Grey Market Racing's car. Yeah. So that's an NFA between it and the 8 Ferrari, which caused the puncture, but I'm sure that problem at turn 13 is going to be looked back upon, Graham.
I tend to agree. That was Antoine Ducat being just a little aggressive. That was him trying to unlap himself from 16th. Well, he did, but I suspect he'll be becoming a little bit more familiar with the pit lane marshals fairly soon.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fair comment there.
Yeah, it's amazing how these things can sort of spiral downwards and out of your control, with everything looking very rosy indeed at, 20 minutes past 9 this morning as they were all gridding up, but then it went very, very wrong, sadly, as Francois Kerman tries to the right, tries to the left as they reach Portimão corner at turns 10 and 11, that whole section called Portimão. And then they head up the hill towards 13. Kerman pressurising the CD Sport car of Michael Jensen. At the moment, though, the Dane is yet to crack.
Absolutely. Heck of a track, this. It really... the roller coaster thing, I know can feel a bit old, but there's few better descriptions of it. And actually, when you come here and just stand at any point, it's blindingly obvious just how much rise and fall this has got. That was Van der Mile looking racy here, looking for a way by Tony Wells. Up the inside, this is the rear end of the car, but I think he's got that position. He does. Well done, sir.
Just at the kink for turn 4, and the team applaud their response immediate, because they felt that that was the time to pounce for Horst Felbermayr. And into Tora Vip, he is up to 5th position now, having gained the spot on Tony Wells, with John Fowle, while only just under 3 seconds further down the road. So let's see whether Horst Felbermayr can up the ante and close in on the 4th place car now for Mühlner Motorsport.
Great stuff, and battles coming together here. Another man on the move at the moment, Ian Logie, in 3rd place in the Phoenix Racing number 5 car, is catching the 66 car, under a second back now from the 2nd place car in the hands of Alexander Matchell. Another first-timer in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, though not a first-timer in LMP3. The full season of the Asia Le Mans Series earlier this year with the United Autosports team, and got a couple of podiums there.
As suspected for Antoine Ducat, it's going to be a drive-through penalty for him and car 37 after the contact with Mark Crader at turn 13 at the top of the hill. So going from bad to worse for that side of the Cool Racing garage. 69 still going pretty well. Maurice Smith running in 7th spot, and he is right with Tony Wells now.
Well, that looks to me, is that Rob Hodes? I think it is. It is.
Yeah, still quite a lot of smoke coming out of the back of car 71.
It might have been extinguishing. If you looked at the car with the engine cover off, there was a fair amount of extinguishment on the exhaust system, so it could be just that.
All right.
Let's hope so.
Absolutely. I would really like for that car to at least get some mileage in, thinking ahead to the European Le Mans Series, just purely for Rob Hodes to re-familiarise himself with this track in race format, which could be very useful information come the end of the day. Racing Spirit of Le Mans up against Mühlner Motorsport, so a recovering CR Cruise in 9th place after that spin at Tora Vip on the opening lap.
So the 25's team manager has been called to race control. We don't know why, but whether or not there are dramas afoot for racing team of Spirit of Le Mans. But CR Cruise back up into 9th position, challenging now for 8th, and the gaps ahead of him not that huge.
Oh, spin for Maurice Smith. The 69 car loses it, and Rob Hodes, who's just joined from the pit lane, has to go off the road. The Racing Spirit of Le Mans car also in avoidance as well, and that was all, sadly, on Mo's own. He was obviously trying to push as hard as he could to get by Tony Wells, not going for an overtake in that particular incident.
It's a curb.
It's gone on the curb. At the top at Portimão corners, turns 10 and 11, and as he was turning, the more significant turn is the approach to turn 11, and there was just no grip from the rear left, which pitched him into a spin.
It's Felbermayr working traffic and pulling away from Tony Wells here. 5th place, and looking to get on the terms with John Fowle, but that would be a mighty performance. There he goes through.
Yeah, so dispatching Jonathan Brossart, who is 2 laps down now compared to race leader Torsten Kratz, who we really haven't been talking a great deal about, mainly because he's now 12 seconds in the lead from Alexander Matschel. And Matschel in the Rinaldi racing car with no immediate answer to the pace from Torsten Kratz's WTM powered by Phoenix car. 1.4 seconds is a much more likely battle to change, I would say, between Matschel and Ian Loggy in that third-placed Phoenix racing car number 5.
And works traffic by way of the 27 Nielsen racing car. Warning flags, by the way, for track limits for the 3rd and 4th place cars. That's Ian Loggy and John Falb. Pushing the patience of race control.
Heading through the kink at turn 7, and now the right-hander, tricky right-hander at turn 8, which you approach uphill, slightly off camber as well. Got to get the power down as early as possible, because that will dictate your top speed through 9, right through the dip there, and up onto the ledge at turns 10 and 11 at Portimão. Then you tumble back down the hill through 12 and up to the nameless turn 13 before Sagres corner at turn 14. And CD Sport versus DKR Engineering is still bubbling very nicely indeed. This is for 10th and 11th places, but we've got scraps throughout the top 10, apart from for the race lead. As Matt Bell takes on some fluids, he's preparing himself for a stint in just over half an hour's time.
I think that was probably a pepperoni.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Snacks.
No, I think it was fluids, but Matt's pumped up for this one, and pumped up as well for European Le Mans Series 2. Car 18 is now reported to the steward, so John Falb in the first of the Miller Motorsport cars, running 4th, is going to be getting a penalty.
Yeah, so there's been an awful lot of stories developing in the early stages of this race, and not a lot of them good, in fairness.
No, the good news is Torsten Kratz has been pretty much ironclad here, hasn't he? This battle has been going on for what seems like most of my natural life. CD Sport and DKR Engineering, nose to tail still. Neat and tidy from CD Sport. Up the inside now of the 18 car is Horst Velpermeyer, looking to do what he can about getting onto terms and by the soon-to-be visiting pit lane. John Falb, 2 guesting drivers in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. 2 men with quite the racing CVs. John's more recent than Horst, apart from the KTM exploits he's been having in the 24H series. But just goes to show, after some years away from motorsport, looking after the family business, he's lost nothing of that ability. Great to have him back. Drive-through penalty it is for car 18, so that will give Horst Velpermeyer 4th place when John Falb takes that penalty.
A moment or two ago, you will have noticed that the points as it stands scrolling towards the bottom of the screen, and 114 is where Nicky Leutwiler is now, compared to Paolo Roberti, who's his nearest rival in the number 8 Ferrari, significantly further back in the points. So everything going the way of the Swiss right now because of his lead in GT3. As up the inside goes Francois Kerman at turn 1 to pick off the place from CD Sport and Michael Jensen. And Jensen, well, didn't really even show much of a defence there. I think he realised the game was up, and he's also got further cars right behind, which is the Pietro Peccinini TS Corsa car. Daniel Schneider, I think, is right with him, isn't he?
He is right there. It's a 4-car train for that position. So Velpermeyer will likely have been told by the team that the number 18 car is going to have to be on pit lane within the next couple of laps. But it's not stopping him trying, is it? This pair, by the way, they are something like 9 seconds back from Ian Loggy in 3rd.
Through 12 goes John Falb. Horst Velpermeyer nibbling at his heels with every turn of the wheel. The warning flag to the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, number 25, for overtaking beyond the track limits. We've seen a couple of cars do that on the exit of turn 15.
That, I think, will have been the one for the visit to race control.
Yes, you did mention about the team manager of Racing Spirit of Le Mans being summoned, as now into pit lane comes the... Is this the 18 of John Falb? Yes, it is.
This is him taking his drive-through penalty.
Yeah, OK.
That will put Horst Velpermeyer up to 4th, Tony Wells up into 5th. Charlie Cruz is now back up into 6th position after that first lap spin out.
So CR Cruz, slowly and surely, is getting back towards the sharp end, up to 6th place now.
And his pace better than most of the cars ahead of him
Yes.
at present. So there's more to be achieved here by CR Cruz in this recovery drive. Around half an hour before we start to talk in any depth about who the talent that is waiting on pit lane to take over these cars, but there are, again, some new and interesting names to add to this, including a couple of stars from further up in the sports car racing firmament. James Allen being one, will joining John Falb in the Milner Motorsport car. Matthias Besch is another, and Matthias, at the moment, looks set to take over a car that will be running third. So, the race at the moment is all about this car. 14 seconds up the road now, the number 11 car.
Pit lane window, by the way, opens at 50 minutes if you're an LMP3 car, 55 minutes into the race for GT3s, but the LMP3s have to stop twice, first within that window after 50 minutes for a driver change, and then within the final 20 minutes of the race for a further fuel fill. So here's the order: WTM powered by Phoenix from Rinaldi Racing and Phoenix, but let's head to Hayley Edmonds before we get a bit further on into the race. She's in the pit lane.
Joined by Cool Racing team manager Brian Bailey. Now, Brian, we're 30 minutes in, and it's been so dramatic for both cars from the team. I just want to kind of touch down on what exactly happened. So, can you firstly starting off with Antoine Lecran in the pit lane? What was the issue there, and what happened?
So as we left the pit lane, unfortunately, the red light was at the end of pit lane. We weren't able to take our position on the grid. If you don't take a position on the grid, then you have to start a lap down. You have to start on track once the whole field has passed at the end of the first lap. So very disappointing after a super qualifying yesterday.
And you also sustained a penalty as well.
Yeah, some contact with car 20 that was. So we had a drive-through penalty for that, unfortunately.
Okay, so now going on to car number 69, a very important race for them for the championship overall. Maybe not the start they'd wanted. What is the focus on? How are you kind of adapting to the consequences now?
Well, with car 69 on Mo had a super start, making really good progress. Fortunately, did make an error and had a little spin chasing Tony Wells in the Nielsen car. But now we just focus on getting him back on it, back up to pace, and then we fight for this victory.
Get back on the horse. Thank you very much.
So Brian Bailey there, by the way, championship-winning team manager. And that's the 20 car off the road in the gravel.
Great market racing for Mark Crader. Second time that he's been facing the wrong way, this time off in the gravel. Now, was he given a helping hand? There were cars around him when this incident happened. The Team Virage car, and I think the 37, and is it 3 into 1 just does not go. There was a spin as well for 16.
Yeah, that's
Team
Cristobal.
Virage car, still with Miguel Cristobal at the wheel. And that was that Antoine Ducan trying to go to the inside of the two of them.
Yeah, he was the innocent party there, but I think that's what squeezed the pair of them together.
Yeah.
Full course yellow is going to be coming in just about 20 seconds time.
It's challenging enough to get two cars abreast into turn one, but they were trying for 3, and unfortunately that was always going to be the result. So again, concerned looks from Grain Market Racing, or Nielsen Racing, isn't it, that runs that car?
It is, correct.
Number 20.
4, 3.
Here's the countdown into the full course yellow then.
Full course yellow.
And the incident that involved car 16, Miguel Cristobal and Mark Crader, number 20, unsurprisingly is under investigation. But with
the manager, car 20, your car is going to be snatched to the asphalt apron. Tell the driver to stay in the car. Tell the driver to stay in the car.
That's obviously Mark Crader getting out of the car then, and let's hope not outside of radio distance. No, he's not going to get the message, is he?
I think he thinks he's got too much damage.
Yeah. But the marshals are quickly with Mark to say...
The problem now is he's taken the belts off, and it's not easy when in the car. I think he's saying there's too much damage.
Okay. Oh, right. So the indication from Eduardo was stay in the car and we'll put you back on the track so you can go back into the race rather than stay at the wheel to help us assist with the recovery of the car.
Correct.
Right. So
I think he's saying no, it's not going to be that simple.
It's not going to go any further. Well, they may still want him back in the car anyway just to help with the recovery, but the helmet's coming off now and Mark, I think, is going to call it a day here. It's been an eventful race and not for all the right reasons. Mark Crader catching his breath. That will have been a moment that will have been quite shocking, I would imagine.
Big impact, actually.
Well, you're arriving at turn 1 at such a rate of knots and all of a sudden then spinning several times around and straight into the gravel track, which slows you rapidly. Rinaldi Racing in the pit lane, car 55. We haven't yet reached the...
Both Rinaldi Racing cars.
Interesting, okay.
The second place car is in the pit lane as well. So what's this all about? Are we going to get this... Well, they're not allowed to change the driver again at that final pit stop. So they're betting here that there's a possibility there's going to be another caution at some point.
So they're choosing to do the driver change outside of the normal window, if you like, as the Mark Crader car number 20 is being towed out of the way from the gravel track.
I think he's just asking him to help steer it, that's all.
Are the rear wheels locked into position? Is it still in gear, I wonder? And also, like you say, straighten the wheels up to assist.
As we're watching this, Paulo, just to complete, Brian Bailey, we heard talking earlier with Haley, with Cool Racing, previously team manager with Dragon Speed, I believe was team manager in their championship winning year, when they won with G-Drive Racing in the European Le Mans Series. But he knows what he's doing, but I think he was saying there it was a mistake, it was a team mistake, no doubt. That car is going to require a lift to the flatbed.
It was a very political answer, was it? Because all he did was explain what had happened and didn't actually give a reason why the car was released too late.
Came from quite a way back, didn't he? 16.
Ducan did a good job, actually. He could see what was about to happen and leapt on the brakes to make sure he wasn't involved. So, having assessed that again, I wonder whether the 37 might have been pulled into that incident as well, but he was completely the innocent party, as you'd already said, Graham.
I wonder if, the hit on there, I wouldn't be remotely surprised there's suspension in there, and it may well also have a broken wheel.
Yeah.
And it might just simply be the case that Mark was saying, actually, I'm not happy driving that back.
To explain why they're doing a driver change right now, we talked about a pit lane window. It's not technically a window, it's all governed by drive time, and each driver in LMP3 has to do a minimum drive time of 50 minutes. Now, you can of course put your starting driver back into the car later on. However, you can't do that during a pit stop in the final 20 minutes.
You're tying yourself in, with doing this, you're tying yourself in, I think I'm right, for 3 more stops.
Well, there must be a fuel stop in the final 20 minutes, during which you cannot do a driver change.
Completely correct.
So it's going to have to come in again to make sure that the correct amount of time is done by driver number 1. And
2 more stops. Sorry.
2 more stops.
2 more stops.
The one for fuel, which will get the car through to through the final hour, and the additional fuel stop that must be done in the final 20 minutes. Now, Rinaldi Racing, with so much experience in the GT3 world, at tracks like the Nürburgring Nordschleife, they normally know their rules back to front, but I'm not sure about that strategy for both the 55 and the 66, but WTM thinking of the same thing as well.
I think this is a gamble. I don't know why they'd need to gamble from this position.
I mean, it's a great opportunity because of a full course yellow, because you are pitting whilst everybody else is doing 80 kilometres per hour, and therefore an advantage is there to be gained. But the officials have been trying to close this loophole for most of the season.
I don't think I've been an observer to a championship where there's been more shuffling of rules and strategies through a season than this season of the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
With bulletins issued between rounds to say, right, you can't do that anymore. We have made sure that there's now a regulation in place to close that loophole and slam it shut. So there are very few options available to teams now, which is annoying from a strategic point of view, because you like different ways of skinning the cat, if you like, and that's retained in ELMS, many different ways of pitting cars there and utilising a slightly different way of winning a race.
Frank Kraling car there looks like it's trailing a bullet as well on the rear of the car, so that's 2 cars we believe that may have rear end damage.
Yep.
That would normally be something they can see. It's not actually they may get away with that. It's not detached, it is deranged.
Displaced slightly, but as you say, it's not at the designed angle, but it's nor is it dangling by the cable which powers the tail light. So normally you should be able to get away with that. But the rear section, the cheese wedge-shaped carbon fibre box, effectively, that sits behind each of the rear wheels, has to be there and is mandated as part of the regulations. And I fear for the 21 car, because although it is still attached to the car, it's not quite in the right position. So that may have to be addressed at the next pit stop for that car. 32 is also in for United Autosports. And that car had got further up the order by virtue of the fact that cars ahead of it had been pitting. So Daniel Schneider in during the full course yellow.
So their gamble is that they will gain more in this situation than they will lose.
Full course yellow at 10:06:15. We are removing full course yellow at 10:06:15. In 30 seconds to remove full course yellow.
They will gain more time than they would lose with the second stop.
Yes. But this is too early to be getting driver number one out of the car, because they haven't yet completed 50 minutes. So there'll have to be a second
10,
driver change.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow removed. Full course yellow removed.
This is now the lead battle. Of course, Felbermayr leads this race courtesy of the other cars ahead of him pitting. Charles Cruz right behind him. Tony Wells up to third position.
Just heading down from turn 11 now as well. So orange and black car, RLR M Sport leads the race. Horst Felbermayr from the blue and white Duqueine of CR Cruz, and then the silver with the Dayglow flashes for up the inside. CR Cruz attempting to take the race lead away from Horst Felbermayr, but yes, chasing in the white and gold and silver car is Tony Wells in third position for Nielsen Racing.
Big wiggle there, and that is looking precarious. That bullet on the back. He's actually also got hazard flashes and the rain lights on.
Interesting. Car in the distance is that Peccinini in the Duqueine? No, he's much further back, isn't he?
It's
30 odd seconds down.
It is 30 seconds back to the fourth place car. John Falb, after that drive-through penalty, is just a second back from the TS Corsa car. Also worth mentioning, by the way, the RLR M Sport car is not registered for championship points.
Yeah, good point. So CR Cruz effectively leading the points battle.
If indeed the 21 is, and I'll double check that for the car. There are a number of cars in this race that are not full season registered entries.
So 21 is, because it's accumulated 19.5 points. But yeah, the 15 car has actually taken a race win this year.
It has.
But it took me a while to realise why it hadn't been awarded 25 points. Was that at the start of the year in Barcelona?
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, when Mikey Bennin was part of the lineup, but didn't figure in the championship because it was effectively a guest entry.
This is John Falb with Pietro Peccinini. This is the battle for fourth place. Two Duqueines, very different colour schemes. The heritage, almost British racing green, as you quite rightly say, and yellow.
Down the hill through turn 9 and up towards Portimão, the Portimão sequence of corners, that is. Out of 15, meanwhile, the final corner on the track comes the RLR M Sport car for Horst Felbermayr. CR Cruz in second, third position Tony Wells, but it's getting slightly more distant there on the main straight. 2.3 seconds is the gap back from the CR Cruz car, and then a much larger piece of real estate between him and Pietro Peccinini. Now there's some debris on the track at turn 3.
It's not the back of the 21 car, so someone else has lost.
That looks like a front splitter or maybe a dive plane. You can see the Michelin branding on the side of it. So it's clearly a bit of bodywork that carries a Michelin sticker. Yes, it's a dive plane from the front left of Francois Kerman's car, or at least the very edge of the front splitter, which was whipped off there after contact with the number 2 Porsche.
And with thanks to Jeff Carter in the Michelin Le Mans Cup media room, the number 6, 15, 27, 55, 60 and 73 are the cars not registered for this championship. So that's the A&S car. The 15 is the RLR car we've already spoken about as the Porsche. Is that Porsche slow? It is slow.
Well, it's got a puncture because of the contact with Francois Kerman, which happened at turn 3. I did fear about that. And because of that touch which accounted for the front right splitter or the dive plane, Porsche number 2, carrying the potential drivers' champion, Nicky Leutwiler, is losing huge amounts of time here now.
Watch for the number 9 car of Manuel Agostina. That would be for the GT3 race lead. So dramas so far for 2, puncture-related dramas for 2 of the 3 runners. Both contact-related.
Leutwiler is very close to the end of the lap, so we'll be able to get into pit lane so that the team can change that. They won't be able to do a driver change yet, though, because it's 55 minutes minimum drive time in a GT3 car, so they are 9 minutes short of that. Where is Gabriele Lancieri, though? Because remember, his teammate Paolo Roberti has a chance of winning the driver's title if the 8 car gets in front of the 2. There is a class change, lead change, though, in GT3, because through goes Manuel Agostina. She does not need to pit with all of her 4 of her Michelin tyres fully inflated, and the number 9 car is up to the lead of the class, Graham.
Yeah, it's going to be a tyre change only for that Porsche and send it. It doesn't make any sense to do anything other than work this through to the point at which the driver change window comes in. Well, you're right, though. Where is Lancieri? And the answer is about 30 seconds back at the moment.
So both of the championship protagonists in this GT3 battle have suffered punctures now because of contact. The 8 car of Gabriele Lancieri on about lap 2, and the 8 car goes in front of the number 2 all of a sudden. So Nicky Leutwiler now is going to have to chase down the number 8 car. 1.5 seconds might be a real-time gap. Just have to wait and see when they go through the next split to see whether that alters at all. But we may have a real duel on track for the remaining portion of this GT3 stint.
And could we get to the stage where the very first race win by an Iron Dames crew comes in this championship in the final round this year?
Yeah.
It's not happened in the European Le Mans Series so far. They've had some second places, but not a win. Could they come home?
Lead change, see our crews up the inside of Horst Felbermeyer, played that very sweetly indeed into turn 1, and despite the dangling bullet from the rear left corner of car 21, the Duquesne from Mullner Motorsport will take the race lead. We're in a phase where some cars have pitted and others have not. These 2 have not yet made their stops, but will be able to possibly at the end of this lap, if not the next one, once that pit lane window opens at 50 minutes. It probably will be the lap after the end of this one. And as we reflect upon that and when these cars might make a stop, let's head back to the pit lane and to Hayley Edmonds to see who she's found.
I'm joined here by Miguel Cristobal, driver of car number 16 with Team Virage. I mean, it was you worked your way up the field to 3rd. It was very eventful. Just take us through your first stint of the day. And what happened? How did that spin occur?
Yes, I was trying to be conservative in the beginning, but there is a lot of confusion on first lap. So I was 3rd and I was with the same pace of the first. But then I had a stop and go. I don't know why, but and then I go to the back of the field. So I start to recover, past many cars, more than 10, and then trying to pass a slow car. He simply, in the end of straight line, he closed the door without I'm not being there, so I was inside of the curve, so it was a pity, we spin, and I had a puncture, I had to go to the box, and now we are in the recovery.
The 30-second stop-and-go penalty was, of course, because of the incident with the Mullner car. But what more can you tell us about that? Because we were kind of a bit confused with regards to the lines that were taken, etc. What can you tell us from your point of view?
Yeah, I think he made a very early break, and so I could not have any chance to avoid him. So it was a race accident. But I had the penalty.
The top LMP LMP3 field here, but you drove here at home. Just tell us a quick word on what it's like to drive here in Portugal at home.
So many super drivers, professional drivers. I'm not a professional, but I'm trying to do my best, and it's amazing how this field is the most competitive in the world, for sure.
Great, good to hear. Thank you very much, Miguel.
Miguel Cristobal, who actually has some World Rally Championship experience in the late 90s when he used to do Rally Portugal in the Mitsubishi Evo. He's done all sorts of different types of racing, but mainly in his home country, and last competed in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, this time last year here at Portimão. Didn't know why he'd got the drive-through penalty. Interesting line.
I think he has a lapse of memory there. We've got a flurry of fastest laps of the race as we watch them dive bombing up the inside of the 16, up ahead of the 18. That is not for position. That is Sasha Lehmann unlapping himself in the fourth place car of John Falb as Charles Cruz from the lead and Tony Wells both on pit lane now. And that is with the pit window open. So they're going to hope a standard strategy is the better option. Fastest lap of the race went to Matt Bell 2 laps ago. Then it went back to, who by the way, of course, shares with Mo Smith in the 69 car. That's a 16th place. Then it went to Matthias Besch, who takes over the number 5 car from Ian Logie, that car in 8th. And now back to Matt Bell, 138.393. So pit lane is going to get busy again now. Milner, I've got the 21 car in pit lanes, Nielsen with the 7, the 73 TS Corsa car and the 23 United Autosports car from 5th and 6th. Then the number 60 Phoenix car, Frank Kraling, is in from 8th position. And the other, one of the other two United Autosports cars, the 22 Jerry Kraut, that will be for the busiest man in motorsport over the next 4 weeks, Scott Andrews, to get on board. Scott will be racing here, of course. Next 2 weekends with Castle Racing in the FI World Endurance Championship and the back-to-back season finales in Bahrain, and then we'll make his way to Petit Le Mans where he has 2 drives, one in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, the other in the Integrated Tech Sports Car Championship and another LMP3. Busy boy.
Yeah, well, it's Christmas to think about, you see, so, you know, need to earn a bit of money here and there.
That's a quick shot there of Gordon Gudmundsson as he watches what's going on with Team Thor. The car is out there with Tom Ashton at the wheel.
22nd, well 21st in class, so behind Manuel Agostina's leading GT3 car. Pit stop underway for TS Corsa. Kian Carey taking over from Pietro Pettinini, as now in from the race lead Horst Felbermayr for RLR M Sport, one of a clutch of cars not eligible for championship points, but they're still desperate to bookend this season actually with wins, because it was the 15 car that won the opening round of the year in Barcelona in April. Can they do the same again here in Portimão? As there's a late call there for John Falb, I believe, to come down pit road. Yes, it is, from 2nd position.
Well, that's the second stop.
Yeah, because they stopped earlier outside of the window, didn't they?
Apologies, he had a drive-through, didn't he?
Oh, no, you're right, yes.
So, Horst Felbermayr from the lead, John Falb from 2nd, both in. It'll be Tommy Foster aboard the RLR car. John Falb will hand over the 18 to James Allen. I think that might be James's first LMP3 drive.
Okay, yes. Quite possibly. I have to search through the archives for that, but James, a former double race winner in the European Le Mans Series with Graf, as down the hill into Tora Vip goes the new race leader, Matthias Besch, now for Phoenix Racing. So this is the car that was started by Ian Logie, and it's heading up the hill with plenty of traffic in front, but Matthias Besch nursing this 10-second lead over Antoine Young in the Racing Spirit of Le Mans Ligier. So 2 Ligiers lead from Nicolas Verone's Rinaldi Racing Duquesne and Leo Weiss, who's taken charge of the number 11 car from Torsten Kratz. So the WTM powered by Phoenix car that led for much of the opening stint is now running in 4th.
Absolutely. So out and back onto track is the championship leading pair. It's the Nielsen Racing number 7 car. So Colin Noble, his task starts with 14th position. Now some of the cars ahead of him have got an additional stop to make. We'll work that one out as this all blends back into some semblance of common sense. But 14th place at the moment for the number 7 crew. It's a drive-through penalty for car 20 for causing collision with car 16. That is not going to be an issue, is it? Because the Grey Market Racing car is called for that contact. I'm surprised at that.
That was the one at turn 13, wasn't it?
That was the one at turn 1. Going to put out Mark Trader.
into the gravel.
Yes.
I need to see that again.
Yeah.
Having thought, now knowing the resolution of that. Confirmed, by the way, James Allen has never taken part in the Michelin Le Mans Cup before this weekend. So, welcome to you.
That was the GT3 leader, Manuel Agosta, cut down pit lane, which means Gabriele Anchieri takes the lead. Also down pit lane again, Nicky Lertweiler. This time will be to hand over to Julian Andala. Dorian Pan, of course, will get aboard the number 9 car. With that tyre shredding drama, for which, by the way, both cars have been issued a warning. The 2 here, the number 3 DKR car for that contact.
I'm rethinking the incident at turn 1 between cars 20 and 16. 20 was being lapped, wasn't he? Mark Crader should, I suppose, have been obeying blue flags when 2 quicker cars were trying to get through.
Not sure he was, because Christopher had been down.
Because he'd had a penalty himself.
He had. I think that might have been for position.
Yeah, okay. That's an interesting one. But there's always 2 sides of the story, and I'm sure that team officials were part of that decision process as well in race control. As the number 8 car reaches the top of the hill at turns 10 and 11, then heads down the hill. So Iron Lynx leading the way, even though the 8 car is in the lead at GT3. Nicky Lertweiler just needs to finish the race in order to take the Drivers' Championship. They are doing their fuel stop now for the GT3 car. New set of tyres as well for the Swiss driver, because we are now beyond the 55-minute drive time that Lertweiler needed to do. So his teammate can now take over, being Julian Andlauer. Wolf Hensler has shared that car in the past with the Swiss as well, but this time it will be Andlauer once again at the wheel of the Porsche, and stand back, because there'll be some phenomenal lap times, I predict, coming from car number 2 in a moment or 2.
And I missed out that race with Hensler taking the wheel with Andlauer on Nürburgring 24 Hours duty that weekend. It's a new fastest lap of the race from the 3rd place car, Nicola Veroni, now in the 66 Rinaldi racing car. That's a 1:38.374. He's under 2 seconds back from Antoine Young, who is running 2nd in the 25 Racing Spirit Le Mans car. Remember, all sorts of things still to play out here, including the fact that a number of the cars at the sharp end of this race have pitted out of sequence and will need an additional stop.
And how many teams have read the regulations to say that in the final 20 minutes there has to be a fuel-only stop, with the potential then of a further driver change if teams need to do that, because there were a number of drivers that started the race that haven't yet done their 50 minutes. The early stoppers further down the order now, with Matthias Besch having his car only made 1 stop, the number 5 machine. But are we expecting car 5 to have a driver change back to Ian Loggy later in the piece? I'm trying to remember when Ian got out of that car.
Yeah, both Phoenix cars were in that early batch.
Early phase, okay.
Oh, sorry, apologies. It was both Rinaldi cars, wasn't it?
Yes, certainly.
So I'm not sure.
The 11 car pitted out outside of the more traditional window as well. The 5 I'm not sure about. Although for Matthias Besch to be now leading by 7 seconds, I think probably the 5 came in early as well. Side by side down towards turn 1, and that is a change for 17th position as the 23 car gets ahead. Therefore, that is Wayne Boyd squeezing by Cian Carey for TS Corsa. Carey, the Irishman, having taken over from Pietro Peccinini during the latest pit stop.
For the fastest lap of the race in rapid order, by the way, go first to Scott Andrews, now to Hugo de Vilde. Both those cars way down the order though. De Vilde in the number 21 car. It's just a team manager called for race director. Vilde is running in the moment at 15th place.
32 laps completed and pretty much an hour done now. So 60 minutes remain in this final round of the season for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We've had 6 races prior to this: Barcelona, Circuit Paul Ricard in France, Monza, the double at Le Mans, and then Spa-Francorchamps. Some fantastic tracks visited all the way through the year, and a really good calendar assembled next year as well, with a trip back to Imola planned for May, and a first ever visit for the Michelin Le Mans Cup to Hungary in the 2nd of July at the Hungaroring, which everyone is really looking forward to.
Watching here, the number 5 car leaves this race in the hands of Matthias Besch, and closing in on with Tommy Foster now, won't it, with the RLR M Sport car. About to go a lap down here.
Team manager from Mulder Motorsport being summoned to the race director for car 21, which was the car that had been started by CR Cruz. And where's 21 in the order?
Way
now?
down now,
Yes.
way down. That's is
15th for Hugo de Wilde. Phoenix Racing car of Matthias Besch then leading the way with a slightly wayward RLR M Sport car up ahead. As 1 hour is done then, and 60 minutes remain in this final round of the season. Torsten Kratz with a great getaway at 9:25 this morning. It's been an early start for all, and straight away getting stuck in, Miguel Cristobal with Alexander Matschel in the 66 car from Rinaldi Racing. Matschel to the inside, Cristobal trying to go around the outside. Then there was contact between the Portuguese and American driver CR Cruz, pitching Cruz into a spin at the Tora Vip corner, turn 5. Run up the hill towards turns 7 and 8 came next, and Patrice Lafargue with a big lock-up in that sequence of corners. The CD Sport car, number 33 of Spain, being overtaken not once but twice into turn 1, and an early drama for the number 8 Iron Lynx machine, already winning the team's championship, but Paolo Roberti desperate to get a driver's title today for that car. Rino Mastronardi and Gabriele Lancieri are just a bit further down on the points because they've shared the 8 car with Roberti, but remember that the Porsche that the Ferrari races with only needs to finish to obtain that title. There was contact between Antoine Ducan and Mark Crader at turn 13, judged to be Ducan's fault, so a penalty needed to be served for that. Side-by-side action and a good overtake from Horst Felbermayr on Tony Wells, much to the jubilation of the team at RLR M Sport. So Horst Felbermayr up to 3rd position at the time. A spin all on his own for Maurice Smith at the Portimão sequence of corners, and then this frightening moment at turn 1 where 3 cars tried to go into turn 1 together, and the 20 car of Mark Crader actually judged to be at fault there, with Miguel Cristobal on the inside, and I suppose you could argue fully committed to the corner as Mark Crader pulled across the bows of the Portuguese into turn number 1. Torsten Kratz making an early stop, as did several cars during the full course yellow that was called in order to recover Mark Crader's car safely. There was contact then for Nicky Leutwiler with Francois Kerman's DKR engineering car, and the DKR LMP3 had its dive plane torn off, but the 3 car probably more at fault than the Porsche, as then there was another lead change. CR Cruz darting up the inside of the Horst Felbermayr driven RLR M Sport car. That also happened at the first corner at Primera, and that has been the scene of plenty of incident. So after 60 minutes of running, 35 laps being completed for Matthias Besch in the number 5 Phoenix Racing car. He leads by 7 and a bit seconds from the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car for Antoine Young. Then it is Nicolas Varoni of Argentina for Rinaldi Racing 3rd, car 66 from Leo Weiss 4th, WTM powered by Phoenix Racing car. Adam Iteki for CD Sport is 5th for CD for the 33 car. Then it's Matt Bell and Cool Racing number 69 in 6th, ahead of Chris Cools for DKR, Dominic Schwager for Rinaldi, Andy Merrick for United Autosports, and Sasha Lehmann, who's taken over the 16 Team Virage car from Miguel Cristobal. GD3 is led by Dorian Parr for the Iron Dames. Car 9 now in the hands of the 17-year-old. She is driving the Iron Lynx car that was started by Manuela Gosner. Second is also an Iron Lynx car for Paolo Roberti, car number 8, and Julian Anlauer took over the PZ Obira Zürichsee by TFT Porsche from Nicky Leutwiler in the last batch of stops.
Yeah, so the three GT3 cars separated by 15 seconds right now, and pretty equidistant, to be honest with you, as well there. But lest you feel that this is going to be static from here on in with 55 minutes remaining of this race, remember, a number of these cars have got an additional stop to make. They pitted out of sequence. There is Mo Smith making a slightly sheep noise. Plenty of wool there as well, Mo. Good to see. And Mo, one of the real characters in this, in a very positive way, in this pit lane. And he's watching Matt Bell progress up the order, up to 6th place now, Matt Bell. Warning flags have gone to driver 33, that's Adam Ateki and Josh Skelton for abusing track limits. So the 37 and 33 are going to have to mind their P's and Q's for the remainder of this race. So it's still wild out there, isn't it? Matthias Besch, Antoine Young, Nicola Veroni, Leonard Weiss, Adam Ateki, Matt Bell, Chris Cools, Dominic Schweger, Andy Merrick and Sasha Lehmann are your top 10.
With Dimitri Engelbert trying to get into the top 10 in the EDEC Sport car that was started by Patrice Lafargue. There are many questions to be answered here as far as strategy is concerned. Charles Milesi, who did the business again here in Portimão in the ELMS to take an LMP2 pole yesterday.
He's had quite the second half of the year, hasn't he? Le Mans win in P2 with Team WRT and consecutive pole positions in the European Le Mans Series with Cool Racing. Quite the bronze.
37 car turning right through turn number 1, and this is the car that has slowly worked its way back up the order to 20th position now for Josh Skelton. Scott Andrews up ahead, and Rui Aguas, the home boy, taking part again in another round here at Portimão, and the AF Corsa driven Ligier, number 31, is in 18th position.
Matthias Besch with reasonable edge here, 9.2 seconds. Look at the pit lane. Nicola Veroni beginning to put Antoine Young under pressure. So that Rinaldi car is one of the cars that will need to stop again.
Back to the 7th, livening up very nicely. This DKR car, regardless of whether it's been in the hands of Chris Cools currently or Francois Kerman previously, it has always had someone to duel with.
Yep.
And that's been the case for most of the opening stint. About to be overtaken this time then by Dominic Schweger, who finds the inside line on the main straight. And is this a fully committed overtake? It certainly is from Dom up the inside of turn 1 to snatch 7th place away from Chris Cools.
Just wonder just how much of an edge that damage at the front left of that car is giving to the opponents here. Number 3 car involved in that clash with Nicky Leutwiler. Both cars with teams warned for that contact.
Yeah, the airflow across the nose of that car will be creating very much an imbalance now, with the dive plane still intact on the front left corner rather. But no, front right corner, and the front left was the one that was whipped off after contact with the rear of Nicky Leutwiler's Porsche.
Indeed.
The 15 car, earlier the race leader for Horst Felbermeyer, now in the hands of Tommy Foster, down in 12th, but he's got 3 cars immediately in front of him, and they're all on the same, well, one is on the same lap, Dimitri Engelbert, and another car they must be picking off then to lap it. Or is that the 37 making progress, in fact? Josh Skelton is up to 20th position, as mentioned. So 17 is there in 11th. Then it is the 15 car in 12th. The Porsche's also being overtaken and, in fact, lapped with Julian Anlauer at the wheel of that. And side by side through turn 9, which is a brave manoeuvre. And Tommy Foster makes it stick.
Foster on Dimitri Engelbert as Julian Anlauer. I think he's just trying to keep his lap times where he needs them to be, keep out of trouble and work the gap to Paolo Roberti. That gap is about, it's just he's lost time on that lap. It's about 5 seconds. 5 seconds added to the next pit stop of car 15 for not respecting blue flags. So that is that RLR car of Tommy Foster. That car currently in 11th place and working a top 10 finish, but the 5 seconds won't help. Colin Noble, meanwhile, 13th place there, closing on the cars ahead of him. A further investigation, this time for car 18. It's James Allen, who are now pretty heavily delayed, Milner car. It's not really going to matter in this race, I don't think.
50 minutes to go. When we get to 20 minutes remaining, there will be another big flurry of cars from LMP3 because all of the remaining 25 cars in the race will have to make a further fuel stop, and a number of them will have to do a driver change at some stage as well.
Correct.
Which is puzzling for me, but we'll see whether it works out from a strategic point of view. Phoenix Racing are obviously in a great position right now, but we think they were in the batch of cars that pitted before the 50 minutes were up of that first stint, so they are one of the cars that will need to come in on 2 further occasions. Connor De Filippi, yes, that Connor De Filippi, who drives the 60 Phoenix Racing car, is now the fastest car on the circuit.
First lap under 1:38, and this is second race in the Michelin Le Mans Cup this season for the American. And he, as with many others in the driver marketplace, looking to place a calling card on the factory team of his choice. I think we can guess which one that will be. And to say, yes, I can drive a prototype, and yes, I'm pretty good at it. And yes, he can, and yes, he is.
Well, much more associated with Bavarian brand BMW, I suppose, in recent years, but used to race with Audi as well, has won the Nürburgring 24 hours with the 4 rings in the past. As now into the first sequence of corners, Primera, Lagos, turn 3, goes the 66 car of Nicola Varone, running in 3rd, and he's only now half a second behind Antoine Young in the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, number 25.
I've been told that the number 5 car, Matthias Besch, that car did pit under the full course yellow, so there will need to be another stop for the driver change there. They're going to be hoping and praying they can do that under some form of caution. That is the only rescue, I think, for that strategy.
Yep. Through the right-hander at turn 8 goes the battle involving 2nd and 3rd place cars. Then Young still just ahead of Varone, but Varone is making his presence felt, and it's not an easy car to miss either, in the bright green and day-glow yellow strips with the red on the nose and the red on the dorsal fin as well. And that car running up the hill towards turn 13 to just go underneath the Porsche of Julian Andlauer. Again, he is trying as best as he can to stay out of trouble. Paolo Roberti, 3.8 seconds further up the road. But as long as that Porsche finishes, then it will be awarded 15 points for finishing in 3rd spot, and that will be enough to give Nicky Leutwiler the driver's title. 6 car, a little skittish and squirrely coming out of Lagos corner there. The 6 car is being now driven by Nicolas Schatz, the former French hill climb champion of yesteryear, and Schatz taking that car over from Jonathan Brossard at the pit stop that the car did between 50 and 70 minutes.
Matt Bell is pushing on again. Purple middle sector, and he's been consistently setting quick sector times, Matt. 69 car running a strong 6th position. He's got 30 seconds to find for the cars ahead, but some of those cars will have to stop again. Part of the regulations, which I'm not sure stayed the same as it used to be, is whether or not that driver change can be done as quickly as they can make it, or whether or not there's a bogey time.
Well, for all the other rounds this year, there are basically been 2 mandated stops in this race. One has a minimum reference pit stop time for the fuel, and the other needs to be the fuel that takes place in the final 20 minutes. They are both dictated by minimum reference times. Any other additional stop can be done as quick as you like, as far as I know.
Well, that was what the regulations said at the start of the season.
Well, it was also what the regulation said at Spa last month.
Yeah,
so.
there has been some of the record of second-guessing some of the strategies that have been rolled out in this championship. And I'm just being a little careful. I believe you're correct. I absolutely know that's what the regulation started the season saying. Good luck there from Leonard Weiss as he tries to work the gap to Antoine Young, who is right with Nicholas Veroni here. This is for second position. 66 from 25. 66 most certainly need to change drivers again.
So Veroni
but
now.
So does the 25.
Yeah, Veroni in front of Antoine Young. Both of these cars expected then into the pits on two separate occasions in the closing 45 minutes. Down the hill towards Torrevit goes the new second place car, Veroni. Another one of the teenagers from all sorts of corners of the world that have been attracted to the Michelin Le Mans Cup for this year, and that's very encouraging for its future and the future of sports car racing.
Yeah, we wait to see what avenues are closed in terms of driver rankings in the weeks and months to come. It's very much something that championship organisers around the world are focused on at the moment. The driver rankings of 2022 now out there in their provisional form, so that's not really the end of the story. Championship organisers are wise to all sorts of wily moves from teams to try to gain an advantage within the rules. The way to deal with that one, if you don't like it, is change the rules. I think there's going to be a fair amount of that going on in the coming weeks and months. 16 car just ducking up the inside of Dorian Pat. It's to put a lap on the GT3 leader. Looking at those gaps, it's pretty static, you know. Well, Julian Andlauer is catching Paolo Roberti.
Yep.
But I don't think they're catching much Dorian Pat. I think she's fending the pair of them off.
Well, there's a certain amount of holding station for Andlauer. He just needs to finish and in third position, so yes, that will be absolutely fine as far as Leutwiler's driver championship is concerned. Paolo Roberti wants to earn himself as many points as possible, so it is in Paolo's interest to try and catch his teammate Dorian Pat in the sister number 9 car, but the question is he able to do that?
Indeed. Car 18, stop and go penalty with an engine cut. Driver must start the engine alone. So that, I think, was some kind of pit lane infringement. So I wonder whether they didn't stop cut the engine at that pit stop.
Yeah, with an engine cut penalty. Okay, but the driver must start the engine alone because the engine must be shut off for the fuel
Correct.
to go in, and then it restarts at the final closing bit of the pit stop.
Sort of indicates they didn't do that last time.
Yeah, maybe. So it's another stop and go penalty for car 18.
And need to prove that they can.
Okay, so that well, they won't be able to do that in the stop and go penalty. It's too short. But maybe there is an example of, or needing to show the example that the engine can be shut off and restarted. Normally a stop go is hit the brakes, literally come to a stop and get going again, but well, we'll wait and see. As through turns 1, 2 and 3 goes the battle for 11th position with Sasha Lehmann, who took over the Team Virage 16 car from Miguel Cristevao at half distance, and he is being chased down by Dimitri Engelbert in the 17, which is the 12th placed car. Colin Noble, unfortunately for the 7 crew, down in 13th position.
Not making progress. He's pushing and he's closing gaps ahead of him.
Yeah.
But they're basically waiting to see how this one pans out in terms of these driver changes.
Well,
so to explain that, if that's not clear, we had a number of the teams higher up the order. We'll have to wait for a little wee while because we're going to go down to pit lane with Rinaldi Racing. And Haley is going to be talking to that team in just a short while. There are 2 of the cars that did make those early pit stops. Let's go down and speak to Haley.
I'm down here in Rinaldi Racing, joined by a driver of car number 66, Alexander Matchell. Now, Alexander, as things stand, he's done a fantastic job, Nicolas, of getting into second place. As things stand, you could potentially win the championship, but there's still a lot at stake. There's still a lot to do. Just take us through what's the plan for the next 40 minutes?
Oh, I think there's a lot of tension here in the pit at the moment. I think my friends of Rinaldi, everybody's really stiff and nobody's talking anymore. Everybody's concentrated. I think we don't do a rough calculation, or we don't not doing a calculation at the moment about the championship. We just drive our race and see where we are. And then,
just you've got 20 minutes driving time left to do. You'll be jumping in for the last stint.
Yes, obviously I have to go back to the car because my minimum driving time is not there. So I'm going back to the car for 20 minutes, and then I have to fight for this. Yes.
That's right, and you've got the responsibility of keeping that car in second, or better, get it to the top.
Exactly. That is my goal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alexander.
Thank you.
Alex Matchell then with some quiet confidence there, but doesn't want to speak too soon. And as he says, conversations in the garage have dried up completely because the pressure is on.
Indeed. Matthias Besch, by the way, goes through, puts in the fastest time of the race last time around, 1:37.806 from the Swiss. By our calculations, the top 5 cars will need to make that stop. As you heard from Alexander there is a window here. There's a window for both those stops. The window it's in the last 20 minutes for fuel.
Yeah.
But also, broadly speaking, that last 20 minutes, before the last 20 minutes, that driver change will have to take place. So we're closing in on the point where a yellow will help them, but we're not there yet.
And they will, we think, need another full course yellow to make this strategy work, as they are hoping it to do so. I'm not quite ready to call that Matt Bell is the de facto leader, but that could be the reality when this pans out. It's why Matt's pushing, because he is fighting here for a very significant place. He's not going to close the minutes gap he's got on the leader on track, but he doesn't have to, because they do have to stop one more time than he does. He'll have to stop for fuel, but so will they. But all of the cars ahead of him will need to change back to the original driver as well. A reminder that there are 5 teams gunning for the championship in LMP3. Nielsen Racing, car 7. They are currently 13th and set to score only half a point. 66 Rinaldi Racing, they're second in the race and on course for 18 points as things stand. Cool Racing, Matt Bell, we just talked about, currently in 6th place, and the 2 United Autosports cars, 22 and 23, with an outside opportunity, and it really is very much an outside opportunity of taking the championship win.
Critical moments here for Colin Noble. 2 cars ahead of him. These are for position. That will put him into 11th position, with cars ahead of him still needed to make those additional stops. And at that point, the points calculator goes into overdrive.
It really does.
It is going to be a matter of how quickly they can turn around those driver changes. 17 goes wide. Is that going to give Colin an opportunity to go through? There'll be tense moments here, looking at a potential championship win after knocking on the door of it for so long.
So out of turn 15, there's more contact under review here, which happened at turn 14, which is the right-hander at Sagres corner. Car 22, United Autosports, and the 17 of EDEX Sport is under review there. I don't remember seeing that contact, Graham.
That was Scott Andrews, apparently, and...
they were together, and Dimitri Engelbert, well, they were scrapping with one another. I spotted that earlier on in the race.
Very odd.
So that's going to be looked at from several different angles. We haven't even seen it from one yet.
I'm wondering whether Colin may have a bit of a problem here. It's just not seeing the raw pace you'd normally see from him. It's a warning flag for car 22 for that contact at turn 14. But Noble got a good exit there out of the hairpin. Still not able to deal with Engelbert, being closed in from behind now by the 2nd place car overall, to potentially lap the championship leader, but with a stop to take.
Yes. So traffic ahead for Colin Noble, including Dimitri Engelbert, and the much better placed of the two Team Virage cars, which is Sasha Lehmann in 11th position, car number 16.
So this is a battle for position that will end up being positions well within the top 10, we believe. It's all going to be about how quickly these teams can come in and change drivers.
Very good lap from Matthias Besch last time through. The best of the race so far, a 1:37.660.
Everything you can do about that gap brings them places when this all pans out.
Yeah. 17.5 seconds is the advantage over Nicola Varoni, the 20-year-old Argentinian. Antoine Young running in 3rd position. Got a nice mixture of Ligiers and Duquesnes in that top 5. 2 Duquesnes, 3 Ligiers, and it is a Ligier that leads the race currently. Antoine Young on course for a podium, but there is so much set to change. Andy Merrick making progress up to 8th position now in car 32, getting ahead of Tommy Foster. Chris Cools having a good dice with him as well.
Still Colin Noble looking for a way by here. Knows he needs the points to fend off the challenges from the cars ahead of him at the moment on track, and he cannot know right now how this is going to pan out. Cannot know. From his position at the moment, he has to fight as if this is 13th position and going forward for 10th and upwards.
Yeah.
Whatever comes his way by way of the pit stops that come his way is going to be basically gravy, isn't it? But right now, he has to fight.
Important not to lose his head either. The problem is behind Colin Noble is the 66 car.
It's the 2nd place car overall.
Right.
Colin's already a lap down on Matthias Besch.
Yes, so has been overtaken by Besch, who leads the race and is 19 seconds up the road now from Nicola Varoni, who's looking for a way by Colin Noble. But these cars that are a lap clear of the Scotsman may well be sufficiently put back again because of the 2 stops we reckon that each of those cars need to make.
Now in GT3, Julian Andlauer is making progress. You can see now in the same shot with Paola Roberti, but this pair are also rapidly catching Dorian Pan, who has had a couple of less quick laps. She's lost something like 5 or 6 seconds, this pair, in about the last 5-6 minutes.
And that might be due to the fact that she's needed to be off the racing line in order to allow quicker LMP3 cars through. And when you are trying to do the kind of thing in making sure that those quicker cars don't lose time, you can sometimes lose a bit of time yourself. Dorian Pan set to move into 2nd place in the championship, by the way, by a couple of points, and ahead of teammate Paolo Roberti. As things stand, still the championship is going to Nicky Leutwiler as long as the Julian Andlauer driven Porsche stays in that 3rd position. Finishes
this race. You've got to ask as well, by the way, for the lead of the race, we hate to talk about team orders, don't we? But for Iron Lynx, what's the better result? Is the better result the win for the championship winning car? Is the better result the headline that comes with an Iron Dames win?
Yeah, good point. And Paola Roberti, having won titles in the past, won't want positions in the race to be moved just for him to get 2nd place. If it's for the win, that would be understandable. But surely the number 9 car will grab, as Graham says, more of the headlines. Can Dorian Pan stay there though? And can Paola Roberti keep behind him Julian Andlauer till the end?
Another fastest lap of the race last time around, by the way, is Matthias Besch again, a 1:37.441 this time. Purple sector on the lap he's just completed, but no improvement in that time. He is looking to stretch it. He's 22 seconds ahead of a car that 2 laps ago, that was 16 seconds.
Yeah, so huge swathes being taken away from Nicola Varoni, and rather we all consider Nicola Varoni to be a big talent of the future, just 20 years old from Argentina, but Matthias Besch with his former LMP1 experience, remember, although he's also driven things like Renault Clios around the Nordschleife as well as part of N24, so if it's got 4 wheels and an engine, he is interested in driving it and racing it. And Phoenix Racing, definitely their gain this weekend to have Besch as part of their ranks. 50 laps completed now for car number 5.
And 30 minutes left as we close in on the 2nd of the pit windows. Car 55, meanwhile, that's the 7th place car reported to the stewards for abusing track limits. And that's one of the cars, and they're now they're likely to get a drive-through for that. That looks like they'll be down pit lane 3 times in the last half hour.
Yeah. Heading through the right-hander at Sagresh corner, and then on towards Galp, the final right-hander to take them onto the main straight, turn 15. And it is Matthias Besch that leads for Phoenix Racing by nearly 25 seconds now. So still that number 5 car continues to extend its lead by a further 3 seconds on 1 lap alone, ahead of Nicola Varrone in second, Antoine Young third for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Then it's Leo Weiss and Adam Iteki for WTM Powered by Phoenix and CD Sport respectively. Matt Bell could yet be in a very strong position for 6th place to try and get as many points as possible in car 69 and maybe take the championship. Remember, he trails by only 14 points.
So watching this race, well, stand by for action, because this thing is going to turn upside down the next 15 minutes without a doubt. All sorts of if, buts and maybes. Just looking there, that was a move for position by both the Edict Sports and the Nielsen car on the D-Car Engineering car. So Chris Cools, I think, has got a problem. The car just going backwards at the moment. So the Nielsen car, championship contender, championship leader, up into 12th position, and 2 places away now from starting to rack up additional points in this chase.
Quite a sight 5 cars virtually all together make as they reach the top of the hill at turn 13 and then head towards Sagresh corner. It is Nicola Varrone almost now 30 seconds in deficit to the Matthias Besch car. Antoine Young, though, is only a second away from Varrone, with Leo Weiss a further 12.2 seconds down in 4th position, and Adam Iteki 4 seconds adrift. Matt Bell, having just done a 139.5, is matching the speed of the 2 cars ahead and quicker than Varrone and Young as well. So a little bit of time being gained by that Cool Racing car down in 6th spot. But he'll have to find his way by Iteki and Weiss first of all. A tough ask at this stage.
Matthias Besch still pulling away, 28 seconds to good now. It's a drive-through penalty, as we predicted, for the car 55 for abusing track limits. It's going to lose. That is going to lose 7th place for that car. And I suspect that's going to put it in the clutches of that goal. A bit of a twitch there. One of the cars running wide under pressure from what is now nose to tail the top 3 in GT3.
So
Dorian Pan.
Yeah, all together on the same bit of the track, and Dorian Pan, as we mentioned, was going under pressure from the 2 cars behind, and it's Paolo Roberti surely with an inside line now for the run down towards turn 5, and Julian Anlauer is going to follow suit as he late on the brakes, and yes, forces the issue there. Dorian Pan just about reacts in time.
She's got a problem. I'm sure she's got a problem. The pace has fallen off a cliff for that car. She held a 15-second gap for quite some time, and then it came down absolutely, 2-3 seconds a lap. So whether or not she's in tyre trouble or whether or not that Ferrari's got a problem, they're romping away as well from her now. So certain that the number 9 car has an issue, but Paolo Roberti moves through to lead GT3. That is for 22nd position overall. 55 car, by the way, has taken that drive-through penalty. Just seeing where that car's come back out when it clears the next timing beam.
9th, just gone through the
it
split
is indeed.
now. Yeah. Dominic Schwager rejoining behind Tommy Foster, Ferrari RM Sport, and just ahead of Sasha Lehmann for Team Virage in car number 16. So significant ground loss. Dorian Pat is off the road and, well, just about recovers that moment, but there is smoke now from the rear left corner.
Look at the rear the exhaust. There's fire.
Well, it's either very, very hot metal or a fire is breaking out.
I wonder if is it a turbo?
Yeah, possibly. Or an exhaust manifold issue. but these Ferraris have been turbocharged for the last couple of seasons. The 488 when it took over from the 458. Remember that dropped to 3.9 litre V8, but turbocharged, and the vents on the front of the rear wheel arch effectively indicative of how much air has to be gulped in by these Ferraris these days. But yes, that has been manifesting itself, we reckon, for a couple of laps now, and the battle is on between Julian Andlauer and Paolo Roberti. Now this is a lot of fun for Julian Andlauer, yes, but does he need to get involved with it necessarily?
I think he's trying to apply pressure, but Paolo Roberti is a fire. It's a fire in the back of that car. Well, that's gutting, isn't it?
So the engine cover came off, and well, something is certainly issuing a lot of smoke. Whether that's an engine component or whether the whole thing has just taken light, it's very tricky to tell from the angle that we have been given there. But 2 fire extinguishers being offered up. Early days of the 488 GT cars, that was a fairly familiar sight, but a lot of work was done with those cars to improve reliability, the Evo versions in particular, to improve reliability, and that's now quite a rare sight, and that's horrible luck. I'm sure they'll be absolutely gutted by that. What we don't know is whether Dorian was caught in some traffic with LMP3s immediately in front maybe, and perhaps the turbo hasn't been gulping in enough air. If it's been stuck behind a couple of other cars in a hot area, then that may well have skyrocketed the engine temperature. Nicky Leutwiler, a wry smile at the moment, because of course now the Julian Andlauer driven Porsche, his Porsche, is up to 2nd place and on course for 18 points. That is more than enough, even if the number 8 car wins the race, for Nicky Leutwiler to take the driver's title in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And Julian Andlauer spotting an opportunity maybe to get at least alongside the number 8 Ferrari and possibly to take the race lead. We will wait and see. We are 3.5 minutes away from the second pit window beginning, i.e. you will be able to pick your LMP3 car in the closing 20 minutes of the race to take fuel on board as the regulations mandate. I think about 5 minutes and we get into the window for both those stops with cars that need to stop twice. Remember, a batch of these cars came in under yellow, changed the driver, but they are outside the minimum drive time for the first drivers in this race. So a number of the leading cars you are going to see come down pit lane for a further driver change in what is at the moment the last 23 minutes of this race. This is not done. Interesting to me, that 66 car has not got by Colin Noble to lap in. Okay. It's just sitting there behind the Scotsman. Which indicates I'm wrong, that Colin doesn't have a problem. Fine, or unless it's Veroni just measuring his pace to a car that is on a different strategy, but it seems unlikely because the 7 car is very, very good indeed, heading out of the right-hander particularly. 3 cars now are being reported to the stewards for abusing track limits again. The 37 Cool Racing car, 22 is a United Autosports machine, and the 31... The Very Aguash. Oddly enough, those cars are running... well, not nose to tail, but in 18th, 19th and 20th positions respectively. Yeah. Here we go again. Julian Andlauer playing a little bit, I think, here with Paolo Roberti. Maybe just trying to get an error from the Italian. Has to finish the race to win the championship. That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. So he's going to need to do this cleanly if he's going to not get clouted around the head by Nicky Leutwiler. True enough. I mean, it's a great position to be in, and Julian could even afford to just drop away from the number 8 Ferrari and ensure a second place finish, but it's not in Julian Andlauer's makeup to do that. I know this is me speaking far too soon, but I think we're going to get teams here thinking that they can do a driver change with a fuel stop. And it wouldn't be the first time we'd seen that, would it? No, and that's the confusing thing, is that as soon as you see a team getting pinged for that penalty earlier on in the campaign, surely you make a note in your pad to say, let's not do that ourselves later on down the line. But once a car comes in the final 20 minutes for fuel, as soon as we start to see, if we start to see driver changes taking place as well, then a massive question mark appears above that particular car, and there are several cars that are still requiring a driver change because driver 1, their starting driver, hasn't yet done the mandated 50 minutes.
This, by the way, is a battle, three-way battle. Third, fourth, fifth, 25 in the hands of Antoine Young. Not in that picture, but the 11 car, the W10 powered by Phoenix car with Leon Advice, under pressure now from Adam Mateki. That is for fourth position. Both of this pair 14 seconds back, by the way, from the third place car. But this is a battle for a significant position in this race.
Adam Mateki's CD Sport car just allowing... that wasn't Matt Bell through, because he's 15 odd seconds further down the road, but there was a United Autosports car looking to get through and possibly unlap itself therefore.
Drive-through penalties for those three cars I mentioned earlier, 37, 31 and 22. That is the positional change, and slow, the 11 car.
Dominic Schwager's just come in, by the way, to serve that penalty. The 11 car taking to the right. Now, is that the only reason it is slow, because it's wanting to make a pit stop? No. I think this is a genuine issue for Leo Weiss.
Right at the point where, just as he came by, he slowed, didn't he? Clattered the curb.
Adam Mateki to his left-hand side.
And then all of a sudden...
no power, or significantly less power coming out of Sagres corner.
This is one of the cars that now requires two stops.
Yeah.
Is it going to be more drama than that?
So there'll be Torsten Kratz to get back in at some stage. This first stop doesn't have to be your fuel stop, of course. You can do the driver change first of all and then come in for fuel afterwards. But they have to be two separate stops, which is my reading of the regulations.
Nielsen now up into 11th place and a place away from extra points. Nicky Lertvaler, by the way, as we watch this battle in the left-hand screen, and it is a driver change underway. Oh, and there's touch! There's a touch between two.
And that's Paolo Roberti still ahead of Nicky Lertvaler, but showing his intent. Andlauer. And Andlauer around the outside of...
Oh, no.
That was Paolo Roberti readjusting his line, wasn't it? And giving Andlauer somewhat of a shoulder barge there, saying, no, you don't, sunshine.
So 1 second stop and go penalty for car 8 for not respecting the pit stop time as well.
Whilst you were watching the contact...
car 6 must be... Isn't it car 8? Is there? Yes, there is. Apologies. It's the Iron Lynx car.
There's a contact on the run into the pit lane for one or two of the LMP3s. No, they just about avoided that. Now, whilst you were concentrating on the GT3 contact at turn 1, I was looking at the pit stops taking place for car 5 and car 11. Fuel nozzle attached, driver change taking place. You can't do the two at the same time, Graham.
I'm sure that's right.
So there's we need this confirmed, of course, from an official point of view. Some fluid pumping out the back of car 66 as well. That is overfilled, presumably from the fuel that has just gone in. But driver change is taking place in this final 20-minute stop.
Do they genuinely believe they can do it in one stop? No, it can't be correct.
Well, we've had this mistake done before. Did the 66 find the 17?
No, he didn't.
Not quite. But it was nip and tuck. As Verone leapt on the brakes.
Matt Bell goes to lead, but he will need to stop for fuel. So there's a fuel stop still required here. 5, 66, 25 and 33 on pit lane. 7 need to stop for fuel up into 8th place now, and that leap up the order starts the Nielsen racing car.
This has all come about because of the full course yellow that happened because of the incident down at turn 1 in the opening 40 odd minutes, and it was a great opportunity, the teams thought, to make an early stop, get their first driver out, their second driver in, and then they would need to do a second fuel stop, first fuel stop at about 50 minutes, second fuel stop now.
Drive through for the number 22 car is cancelled. Iron Lynx and TFT are both on pit lane. The Iron Lynx one is a drive through. It's damage, I think, for the number 2 car.
Still going though. Yes, just about, is the number 2 Porsche, which can rejoin the race.
The number 8 car is coming after its stop and go penalty. Come up after the stop and go penalty. I think that is the number 2 car coming in for possibly a precautionary change.
Yep.
But now it's a matter of, for the next 16 minutes, that's your fun, I think.
Well, Julian Andlauer gave it all that he could to try and take the race lead. That was beyond the port of call, if you like, the necessary obligation to get in front of that car, because he just needed to stay behind in second place and stay out of trouble. But fair play for him for giving it a go.
Absolutely. So leader in the pits, this is the 69 car, Matt Bell. This is the compulsory fuel stop. It's a time fuel stop. Driver change.
Yeah, they're all doing it. So
No, but they didn't need to.
Okay, we know that for sure, do we?
That didn't look like, that looks like Matt Bell getting back in the car.
Well, Matt Bell was already in the car when he brought it in. Andy Merrick's in from second place as well, but Maurice Smith then we think did not, has done his 50 minutes. Tommy Foster back to the front, so still a chance that RLR M Sport could take a win at the start of the year and a win at the end of the year, but there are still huge question marks regarding these stops that are being done by the teams about fuel that's going in and a driver change that's taking place. And I'm just wondering now whether, because so many teams are doing this,
has there been another rule change?
Has there been another rule change that didn't reach the commentators? That's Maurice Smith, isn't it?
It is Mo.
So Mo's getting back to the wheel of the 68 car to take charge from the car that's just been brought in by Matt Bell.
So RLR Sport from Colin Noble now in second position, but needs that fuel stop.
Yes.
But doesn't need to change a driver, whether or not they did in the first place. But so the RLR Sports and Nielsen Racing crews are now 1 and 2, need a fuel stop. Ugo de Vilde in the 21 Milner Motorsport car is third. Phoenix Racing's Ian Loggy is back in the car now. He most certainly is a driver that did one of the early stops, isn't he?
Yes.
Because he's got back in the car. So that is the first of the cars that has come back in and done a driver change on the road. But he is 27. They can win this race. If that's legal, they can win this race. If it's not, they most certainly can't.
It's rather the moot point at this stage, and it is a situation, a rule set that has rather been changing throughout the course of the year in order to sometimes react and sometimes to preempt some approaches of strategy from teams up and down the order. Of course, this is such a keenly contested championship in LMP3, but perhaps even more so in GT3 because of the automatic invitation on offer to next year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. So no quarter astal given for all of the teams. One stop for RLR M Sport then. They are out front from the single stopping Nielsen Racing car, but both cars will require an additional fuel stop within the next 13 minutes.
And that's a timed fuel stop.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So cannot be any quicker or shorter than everybody else. But now we can basically say that the teams that have gone off strategy as far as their driver changes are concerned, they are not anticipating taking a second stop for another driver change. TS Corsa are backwards at turn 2 and off the road.
For clarity, by the way,
that's
if you're
not
thinking,
a good place to be stopped, but now gets going again for Key and Carey.
If you listen to this and thinking, why are these two idiots not sure what the rules are? We are sure what the rules are because we read through them the last time this happened.
Yes.
And the rules most certainly, that was again an odd kind of rear lockup. And at that point, it most certainly said, there's a face from the LMP3 pass. That's Graham Johnston from previously of Lannan Racing, and he is helping out at RLR, I think, nowadays. That'd be quite something, wouldn't it? Looked after Mikey Benham for many years in multiple race-winning efforts in Michelin Le Mans Cup. Graham sold on his team some little while ago. He's keeping himself from under the missus' feet weekends by helping to engineer and manage this effort. The number 15 car, Tommy Foster, with 22 seconds from Colin Noble. So we just watched the 15 car. The point I was about to make before the carnage broke out was Nicky Lertweiler, not currently aboard the number 2 Porsche. If he brings this home, will score a very unusual double of winning ACO Rules Racing championships in 2 completely different championships and in 2 completely different sorts of car. He was the overall champion in LMP2 in the Asia Le Mans Series in 2016, and then would win in a GT car as well as a prototype. There's not many that have done that.
No, true enough. So would be a phenomenal double if he can do it, and on course at the moment to be able to complete that achievement. Julian Anlauer behind Paolo Roberti, but it's absolutely fine for them to finish in that order and for them to take the title. Still constantly scrolling through emails that have arrived in the last 14 days regarding any championship changes to the regulations, but I am not aware of any, because I mean it's also done on safety grounds in that final fuel stop. It was never ideal and not put into the regulations by design. It's because of this new Nissan engine, which is a thirsty bit of kit, 5.6 litres these days, and they can't guarantee that engine will do the distance on one single fuel stop. So there's an additional fuel stop inserted into the regs.
Correct.
But it can be only fuel done at that stop and not a driver change.
Correct. Nielsen Racing and United Autosports on pit lane from what was second and fourth. They'll drop down the order, but cars around them will still have to make those stops. Cars 73 and 6, the latest to be reported to the stewards for track limits. That's TS Corsa outside the top 10 and on pit lane at the moment, and the A&S Team JSE management, Nicola Schatz at the wheel at the moment. That car 19th position at the moment, so not going to form part of the top paragraph of either press release at the end of this one, I'm afraid.
Colin Noble, Wayne Boyd, both taking their final stops, and the number 7 car then is into the pit lane outside Nielsen's garage. They're now just a question of allowing the time to tick by. No confusion here, because the driver change was done in the more traditional time after the 50-minute marker, and the fuel has gone in, so now just a question of allowing that time to elapse, and the same is the case for Wayne Boyd as well, number 23.
That's a change of position. That's the 11 car that led this race early on, remember, the W10 powered by Phoenix car. These two cars go by the two cars on pit lane at the moment, 7 and 23. That puts the 5 car, the 11 car, by the way, up into 5th position. We wait for Colin Noble and Wayne Boyd to rejoin the action to see where they emerge. The 66 car has gone by, so dropping back down towards the end of the top 10 right now. I think that's as far as they're going to go, 9th and 10th, the Nielsen and United Autosports cars. Still, these are anxious moments, aren't they, when you're trying to home in on a championship run. It's Wayne Boyd's car behind, and away he goes. 8 minutes to go.
So that car is going to rejoin
10th.
Possibly outside the top 10, if not 10th.
10th, I think.
Certainly no better than 10th. Now, cars ahead of it that are in jeopardy, potential jeopardy, because of the stranger way of approaching this race from a strategic point of view. The 15 cars not taking championship points, so we can take that out of the equation. 21 Mulner Motorsport. Was that in Jeff's list of cars that aren't on the championship hunt? No. Right, so, but the Mulner car with now Ugo de Wilde at the wheel, maybe that did pit at the correct time. The Phoenix Racing car, certainly that had an early driver change, because it's now got Ian Loggy back at the wheel.
Yep.
So there is the potential for that to be taken out of the top 10 of the results. Back in comes Tommy Foster now from the lead of the race. Jack Wolf, he started the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, so that's a car that did a driver change early on. Torsten Kratz, we know for sure, did. Michael Jensen for CD Sport, I think that one pitted after the 50-minute marker. Maurice Smith has gone back into the 69. Alexander Matschel, Daniel Schneider. So there's the scope here for Colin Noble and for Tony Wells, maybe to get a podium post-race.
I'm not sure they are. I'm being told that the regulations now state you can do a driver change.
Right. Okay, well that's a change again from Spa-Francorchamps, and we're just learning about that now. I also had thought, well, I think I made a comment at the time, so many teams are doing this, it would be very surprising for them all to get it incorrect, and therefore we're now having it suggested to us that Phoenix Racing, who take the race lead, are up ahead now of Tommy Foster and are in a legitimate leading position. 64 laps now completed, 5 minutes and 50 seconds still to go, and it is Loggy from probably Jack Wolf although he's a good 50-odd seconds further down the road. So Loggy, Tommy Foster, Ugo de Wilde, but Foster and de Wilde are in the pit lane to get their final batch of fuel. So now a drive-through penalty for car 73 and car 6 for abusing the track limits, as we can head to Nielsen Racing.
So I'm joined here by Tony Wells, driver of car number 7 for Nielsen Racing. Can you hear me? Amidst all this confusion, and I'm reassured to know that you're equally confused with all this, of course, with regards to driver change, etc. I mean, you're pretty much safely on your way to winning the championship, but there's still 5 minutes to go. Just tell us about how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I'm totally confused, actually, because I had a fairly straightforward race. I just wanted to keep out of trouble. I had a good start. I let a couple of guys go because I wasn't racing them, and just kept it clean for the session. But we made an error on the pit stop and didn't box under the full course yellow, and that's cost us. But it seems like it's turning around, and yeah, so far it seems okay. But I honestly have no idea, to be honest.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'd say 4 minutes, 16 seconds to go, so we'll be here standing by with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
This is great because no one quite knows who's in the best position here.
Well, for the moment, I'll tell you what it says in the regulations, and if there's been a change, then someone might deign to tell us. That'd be nice. And yes, I'm a little bit annoyed. It most certainly says that in the regulations as published, refueling, cleaning and tear-off removal, tyre temperature, pressure management, and a drinks bottle change. It certainly does not say that, and that's all you're allowed to do, the only allowed operations. So if that's been a change, it's been a change with a bulletin that we have not seen.
Just checking the notice board, and I realise we're very close here to the end of the race. Again, there's a separate bulletin board which I try and keep my eyes peeled upon all through the build-up to each race weekend. Haven't seen a bulletin on there either. Anyway. Oh, there was contact for the TS Corsa car. That was the one that was spinning only a few moments ago, and it was trying to get access to the pit lane. And that's always the risk here at Portimão, as cars come out of turn 15. If you're wanting the pit lane, you need to have your intentions being shown very early on, and it needed to be further over to the right. That was Cian Carey, who did get into the pits and has now left safely. Let's hope that car is not suffering damage. But 73 TS Corsa car might be under investigation for that contact.
66 stop and go penalty with engine cut. The driver must start the car alone, so that's another car in woes. Well, where is this going to leave us with the points? I mean, for the moment, GT3, 2 car finishes, Nicky Lertfahler wins the championship. In LMP3, it's altogether more complex.
Yes, because there may well be decisions that need to be taken by race officials post-race. We have to.
I'm hearing not.
Well, we have to, of course, call it as it is on the road, and therefore the 7 car for Colin Noble and Tony Wells that came here as the championship leader is now, sadly, just getting a point for 10th place finish. Rinaldi Racing, car number 66, is running in 6th position, for which you get...
But needs a stop and go.
8 points, but needs to serve a stop and go penalty. So then we're looking at the 69 car of Mo Smith and Matt Bell. They're running in 4th place, so that'll be 12 points for them. And they, I reckon, are in the best possible position, therefore, because 12 points, that would take them to 71. No, still not good enough to haul them above Nielsen Racing, though. So Nielsen, with their single point, might still be doing enough here. 10th place, and on course potentially. Yeah, 75 points as things stand. 69 for Cool Racing, 68 for Rinaldi Racing. So Nielsen Racing, despite being much further down the order than they would have wanted, are on course for a championship victory in the Michelin Le Mans Cup season 2021.
After all that,
quite unbelievable. So even though there is a little bit of doubt about 1 or 2 cars in front of them, they are still doing enough.
The 66 car, 5th place, needed 12 more points to overhaul.
And also for Nielsen to score no points whatsoever.
Indeed,
and
13 with the one that they've got. And they are going to have to be down pit lane, and that is going to drop them, I think, at least one and possibly as many as 3 positions down.
18 seconds left on the clock, and the lead is just under 30 seconds for Ian Logie and Matthias Besch in their number 5 Phoenix racing car, with Jacques Wolf in the 25, a car that he started the race in. There was a handover to Antoine Young and then back again to Jacques Wolf. As up and through the Portimão sequence of corners now goes the race leader Ian Logie, under some pressure from behind, but that's a car just looking to get a lap back again, not a dice for position. And therefore, for the final couple of corners, Ian Logie will bring his number 5 Phoenix racing car home in that stealth light livery, the dark grey with the yellow door mirrors and yellow fins on it. And Phoenix Racing then in car number 5 will take victory in the final round of the season for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Congratulations to Ian Logie, who started and finished the car, and a spectacular stint in the middle for Matthias Besch, by which point he earned the fastest lap of 1:37.441 and rather blew the rest of the competition away.
Also home and to win the class comes the number 8 Iron Lynx car. He couldn't have written that script before the start of the race, and with the early puncture for the white and black livery car, but with the retirement of the sister number 9 car, that far in the rear of the car, and with the Porsche looking for championship points, bailing out of a battle. And now you can see that the gentleman there in the check shirt, that's Colin Noble Senior, and we'll be very interested in what the mathematics says at the end of this one. Colin is home in 10th. Nielsen Racing confirmed as team's champion.
Yeah, with a single point, which will take them to, I think, 75. So actually 2 points by the sounds of things they are winning. And now that is confirmed down in the garage as well. They can start to applaud. And in fact, there are tears as well. Tony Wells embracing those down at Nielsen Racing. And it's the most applauded. I thought it was Sven, I just couldn't tell from the back of his head. Yeah, there it is. There's Sven, he's the team manager at Nielsen Racing, and has ever before a 10th place finish been so emotional. But that's all they needed.
It's been a tough year for everybody in motorsport. It's hard getting to do this. It's hard getting everything together to do this, and it's harder still operating at a level that's sufficient to win a championship. Champion 2, Nicky Lertweiler, as I say, that's a multiple championship winner around the world with all sorts of machinery, but it's unusual to see somebody winning a championship in a GT3 car and an LMP2 car, as he did, 5 years ago. So well done to the Porsche squad, to Nicky. Fastest lap of the race, by the way, on the final lap, went to Conor De Filippi, another calling card. There you go.
Brilliant.
Can do that, yes.
Wow. So having said it was Matthias Besch all the way through, lap 62, a 1:37.364 on the final lap, where that car finished 26th and 24th in class, but still managed to get, I mean, there's no extra point, but nevertheless some bragging rights over Matthias Besch for American Conor De Filippi. The number 5 Phoenix racing car taking victory, with Ian Logie at the wheel at the start and at the end, and with Matthias Besch in between. Jacques Wolf along with Antoine Young makes the podium as well in the second place car, and third place going to the car of Leo Weiss and Torsten Kratz, the WTM powered by Phoenix Racing Duquesne, and the only Duquesne to make it onto the podium. In GT3, it was a win for Iron Lynx for Paolo Roberti and for teammate Gabriele Lancieri from Julian Andlauer, and Nicky Lertweiler, the new driver's title winner for PZO Bera Zürichsee by TFT, car number 2. And sadly a non-finish for Dorian Power because of that engine fire, maybe turbo related, and a real shame for Manuela Gosner, who drove really well in her opening stint.
Excellent stuff. And just checking, see where we get with 5 car is indeed a championship registered car, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The other thing, by the way, that has happened for the first time in the history, the short history of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, is that we've had a different winner in LMP3 from DKR Engineering, because DKR had won every single title up until this point, but Nielsen Racing break that stranglehold.
And we have it with a crew composed of 2 debutants in the championship, Ian Loggy and Matthias Besch. Both very accomplished racers. There's Ian, the follically challenged one on the left-hand side there. Been racing much of his season in GT machinery. Comes and wins in an LMP3 car. As I said, it competed in the Age Le Mans Series earlier this year with a couple of podiums for United Autosports.
Yeah, I certainly remember him racing Bentleys in fairly recent years in British GT, and makes his name in GT3 running, certainly. So his teammate, Matthias Besch, we can hear from him now, chatting to Hayley.
I'm joined here by Matthias Besch, driver of car number 5, Phoenix Racing, and winner in LMP3. Well, you conquered, basically. First time here at Michelin Le Mans Cup, and you take the win here in Portimão. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel great, especially for the team. You know, it's great that they could put this deal together. It's never easy to arrive in a championship, especially on the last race, and perform. You know, it's a fine mechanics to win. And today we put it all together. We had a great car, so I have to thank my engineers, and my teammate did a fantastic job. I think we were really fast, so I think it's just well deserved, and I'm very happy, basically.
Well done.
My second race this year and second win, so one in WEC and one here, so it's 100% win is good.
It is a good score sheet. Thank you very much, Matthias.
Thank you.
Done.
Bye.
Yeah, the other victory then, if it's in WEC, then that will have been at the race here in Portimão from earlier on this season in the number 70 car, the Orica. So a couple of race meetings here at the Algarve International Circuit have borne fruit. And some reaction now from the GT3 category.
I'm joined here by Paolo Roberti, driver for Iron Lynx. What a great result for the team here in GT3, taking the victory here in Portimão. Unfortunately, it was a bad day for your teammates, but you've taken the victory. You must be so proud.
Yes, we got the start of the race was not so lucky for us, because we got the puncture on the first lap. And we were last with a lot of distance from the first cars, but then even the Porsche got the puncture. We had a good rhythm. I have a little bit struggling with the front tires, but then I got a nice battle with Andlauer, and that's all.
Thanks very much, and well done.
A nice battle with Julian Andlauer, says Paolo Roberti. I'm not sure the officials necessarily agreed with that, because the car had to come in. Mind you, that was actually that was a short pit stop, wasn't it, rather than the contact down at turn 1. So Paolo Roberti was somewhat aggressive down at turn 1. As the race got underway, though, it was Torsten Kratz with a really good getaway. Remember, the absence of Antoine Ducat was key, though, as well, to Torsten's route into the first corner. Antoine having to sit at the end of the pit lane to take the start of the race, a lap down compared to all of these cars. The run into turns 1, 2 and 3 was very dramatic, and then when they reached Tora Vip at turn 5, contact between Miguel Cristevao and the 21 car of CR Cruz, also an early puncture for Gabriele Lancieri in his number 8 Ferrari. The front left started to go down as a result of some contact. A wayward Racing Spirit of Le Mans car with an overtake on the exit of turn 15. Also contact between adjoining Antoine Ducat from the pit lane and Mark Crader. That would be the first of a couple of incidents, because Mark was also involved down at turn 1 with Miguel Cristevao, and almost Ducat again as well, but the 37 car did manage to avoid that incident. Unfortunately, it would leave Mark Crader, though, in the gravel trap and out of the race for Grain Market Racing. The first of some early stops then that confused both Graham and I. They were all taking place in the full course yellow period, where early driver changes would take place, well short of the 50 minutes being completed by the opening driver, and all of these cars would need to come in again for an additional driver change and fuel stop. The 25, rather the 15 car for RLR M Sport coming down pit lane as well. Nose to tail it was between the Iron Lynx Ferraris much later on in the piece, and this was Dorian Pan's problem with the engine fire creeping in. Wasn't quite evident at this point, and almost some contact there as Julian Anlauer squeezed up the inside into Tora Vip. But unfortunately, the 17-year-old French woman would have to be forced into retirement because of that turbo-related issue, we think, and Manuela Gosner teary-eyed because of a great opportunity to win their first race for the Iron Dames. Side-by-side action down at turn 1. That was Anlauer going for a move on Roberti, resulting in rather brutal contact, and Anlauer shied away from approaching that again. A round of applause down at Nielsen Racing for their title-winning event. Then it was a race win for this event in isolation for Phoenix Racing, but the team's championship already having gone, or now being awarded to Nielsen Racing, the first time that a non-DKR engineering crew have won LMP3. And Nicky Leutwiler, the new driver's title winner as well.
Also, therefore, the first time Aligier has.
Yes, indeed so. So there are significant ground and crucial ground being made in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, with the 68 laps completed for Phoenix Racing. 26.3 seconds the leading margin by the end for Racing Spirit of Le Mans in second, and the WTM powered by Phoenix car in third position. And a little further down the order, some teams that you would have expected to have done a little better in this event, including Rinaldi Racing, that were given a penalty, DKR Engineering finishing 15th, and Cool Racing's number 37 car way down in 19th spot. It was a win in this race for the 8 car of Iron Lynx of Gabriele Lancieri and Paolo Roberti, but the championship goes, from a driver's perspective, to PZO Bira Zürichsee by TFT's driver Nicky Leutwiler. Remember, the automatic invitation for next year's Le Mans had already gone to Crew 8 with their Iron Lynx Ferrari. Nielsen Racing confirmed as the LMP3 Le Mans Cup Teams champions, 75 points, so only by 4 over the 69 crew from Cool Racing, 66 Rinaldi Racing finishing in third place, and Phoenix Racing up to 4th because of their late win in the season. The 2 United Autosports cars did not score well in that round, and they will be 5th and 6th in the final championship standings. Tony Wells and Colin Noble are the new Le Mans Cup drivers champions by 4 points over Matt Bell and Mo Smith. Alexander Matchell and Nicholas Veroni in third, ahead of John Showerman on 52.5 points, and then Jerry Kraut and Scott Andrews, who are a partnership and are 5th. Wayne Boyd of the next crew will be in 6th position, and the GT3 Le Mans Cup Teams Championship, we already knew that the 8 car had sealed it at Spa-Francorchamps. That's a convincing victory of 31 points in the end. Iron Lynx over PZO Bira Zürichsee by TFT with the 41 points. In fact, Iron Lynx, the number 9 car, in third position on 67, and the 4th place crew were car 51 from AF Corsa. 107 points, so a lead of 10 does it for the Swiss driver Nicky Leutwiler over Paolo Roberti, with Nicky's teammate Julian Anlauer finishing third in the rankings on 92 points, ahead of Gabriele Lancieri on 78, and Dorian Pan, sadly forced into retirement in this one, will finish in 5th place. Graham.
Excellent stuff, and some worthy champions there. Delighted for all of them. Towards the podium celebrations, Iron Lynx will be the team that get the automatic invitation to Le Mans. From this, doesn't come the way of the LMP3 winning team. They will get an automatic buy into the European Le Mans Series. But let's watch this GT podium.
So to the third step of the podium in GT3, it is the duo from, this is LMP3.
It's LMP3.
LMP3.
Sorry, I thought it was Paolo Roberti coming out there.
Confusing me for the moment. So in third position, second place for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. And the duo that take the victory, Ian Loggy and his teammate Matthias Besch, to the top step of the podium. And we will hear the national anthem for Phoenix Racing before the presentation of the trophies. So to the bottom step of the podium, to third place, Leo Weiss and Torsten Kratz. It was Antoine Young in the 25 Racing Spirit of Le Mans crew, joined by teammate Jacques Wolf. But the win goes to Matthias Besch and to Ian Logie.
One other quick point here, Matthias Besch therefore completes a set. It means he must be a very small club where he's won a race in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, many races including a championship in the European Le Mans Series and a race overall in the FI World Endurance Championship as well. So one of, I'm sure, a small club that has done that so far. That small club might include just one name.
Indeed so, and Matthias Besch thoroughly happy with his year of motorsport. It's been relatively quiet, but in the 2 races he has taken part in the ACO rule set, 2 victories from 2 meetings, so very chuffed with that indeed. The Swiss Geneva born across to the crew from WTM by Phoenix Racing to clink bottles of champagne. And on a warm day here at the Algarve International Circuit, a chance now for all 6 drivers to cool off. So the GT3 podium will happen in a moment or two, but and congratulations to Nicky Leutwiler, of course. It's been an entertaining last couple of hours. It's been an entertaining 7 rounds of motorsport. My thanks to Graham Goodwin, who's been keeping me, Johnny Palmer, company throughout it. And we will see you again next year for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Bye-bye for now.